Mom, 3 years ago I promised you that after avenging Dad, I would conceal the identity of the capital's elite MS, Webster, no longer involve myself in corporate battles, and, as per your dying wish, marry Toby to live an ordinary, stable life. But now I'm getting a divorce. Violet finished her farewell, placed the white chrysanthemums down, and left the cemetery. In the misty drizzle, a combat helicopter stood parked on the helipad at the cemetery entrance. An elite and dignified middle-aged man waited nearby, bowing respectfully to Violet. "Young mistress, are you returning to the capital now?" "No rush, I'll go back after severing ties with the Hamiltons in a month." Violet got into the understated Mercedes parked nearby and returned alone to City Y's most exclusive villa district, JL Manor. As soon as she entered, Violet was met with the cold stare of her husband. "Toby, Violet, I've already registered our marriage with Pamela abroad. She and I are legally married now. You'll manage domestic affairs while she accompanies me outside. You'll still be Mrs. Hamilton. Why have you been wearing this black mourning outfit these past few days? What's there to be angry about?" Violet gazed at her handsome yet impatient husband, her porcelain face cold and expressionless. Before her mother passed away, she had quietly married Toby. She invested her dowry into the Hamilton family's conglomerate, saving the nearly bankrupt Hamiltons. Yet Toby left the country on their wedding night, having tenderly promised with all his heart to remain devoted to her for life, swearing he would never betray her. "Toby, for 3 years I've served your grandmother and sister diligently in City Y, funding your extravagant ventures abroad with my dowry so you could chase your dreams without worries. Now that you've made a name for yourself, you publicly announce your marriage to Pamela. What am I to you? Just a self-funded nanny." Toby didn't want to revisit past embarrassments and grew increasingly resentful of Violet's expose, yet showed not a trace of guilt. He even said, "We're one as husband and wife, my success is yours. Must you really nitpick like this? Consider those past words unheard. Now that the Hamiltons' medical technology is about to go public, Pamela, one of country's rare dual professors in finance and biology, holds decisive influence over the Hamiltons' development. And you're just a pampered young lady who only knows how to tend flowers and drink tea, can't even read financial reports. To the outside world, my wife can only be her. Arrange for someone to clean up the master bedroom as soon as possible. Pamela will be moving in later." After speaking, without waiting for Violet to respond, Toby left. To make room for the mistress, Violet wasn't that cheap. She called for the divorce agreement vetted by a top-tier lawyer to be delivered as soon as she went upstairs. She also arranged for the villa to be put up for sale. When the Hamiltons went bankrupt, their properties were all mortgaged. At the time of marriage, she had moved the Hamiltons into her own JL villa. Over time, Toby seemed to have forgotten that the house was hers. Since the divorce was decided, the Hamiltons no longer had the right to enjoy what belonged to her. Having her sincerity betrayed left a bitter taste in her heart, but Violet was no delicate young lady who couldn't live without someone. She had always been capable of letting go when needed. She went about her usual morning nap, but Violet had barely lain down when she was awakened by a commotion. "I went downstairs to take a look. The hall was decorated festively, the garden was covered with a red carpet, and wedding photos of Toby and another woman were displayed. Grandma Hamilton and Toby stood on either side of a stylish, short-haired woman with an urban charm, showing guests around the villa. Even her sister-in-law, who had been hospitalized for years, was beaming at the short-haired woman with a rosy glow. "Sister-in-law, take it easy, you're carrying my brother's precious son in your belly." The Hamiltons' laughter fell silent the moment they saw Violet. The short-haired woman looked Violet up and down in her black cheongsam, then smirked contemptuously. "You must be Violet. I'm Pamela, dual professor of finance and biology returned from MIT in the U.S. Toby must have told you. Tonight we're hosting both the Hamilton family's medical technology IPO celebration and my birthday banquet here. That head-to-toe black outfit of yours really isn't appropriate for this occasion. Go wait at the hotel." Violet ignored him, quietly looking at the Hamiltons. "Do you all agree with her?" Toby frowned. "Haven't I made it clear enough? Stop fussing over empty titles. In public, my wife can only be Pamela." Grandma Hamilton also urged. "Pamela has a baby to carry around, it's troublesome. Since you're not pregnant, what's the harm in giving way?" Sister-in-law also muttered. "Violet, we're all family now. Any child my brother has will call you mother, so just try to accept it." Violet felt as disgusted as if she'd swallowed a fly. Grandma Hamilton suffered from esophagitis and sleep disorders, requiring meticulous care. Every night Violet kept her company until late, then rose at 5 each morning to personally prepare meals. 3 years, over 1,000 days and nights without interruption. "My sister-in-law was born with a weak heart and has been hospitalized and on medication for years. A single specialized pill costs tens of thousands. Yet she provided for her without hesitation for 3 years. In the end, her sincerity only nurtured such an ungrateful wretch. Violet laughed in disbelief. If you want me to let it go, find divorce. This house was my dowry. Get out now. Pamela paled. JL Villa is the most prestigious estate in city. Why, where else could host a banquet that would show off as much as here? Moreover, the invitations for her birthday party had already been sent out. If she changed the venue last minute, where would that leave her dignity? She steadied herself and spoke first. Violet, what I despise most are spoiled young ladies like you, who only know how to tend flowers, sip tea, and vie for attention. Don't worry, I have no interest in competing with you. Compared to marriage, what I value most is my career. After giving birth, I'll return to the lab in Country M to continue my research. My dream is to assist Toby in successfully developing targeted drugs for cancer treatment, helping Hamilton family's medical technology gain worldwide recognition. I am Toby's wife. And this fact is crucial for Hamilton family's medical technology. You might not know, but I've brought back a $300 million contract with MA Pharmaceuticals, an international giant. The deal will be signed right after this banquet. MA Pharmaceuticals Group, the sister-in-law gasped. Isn't that the company that monopolizes the life-saving specialty medication I take daily? Sister-in-law, you actually convinced MA to collaborate with my brother. That's incredible. Pamela nodded arrogantly, casting a sidelong glance at Violet. Even a young girl understands what you fail to grasp. I don't expect your understanding, but at least don't hold Toby back. With that said, Pamela went upstairs with a cold expression. Violet remained calm throughout. Toby immediately followed, but not without reprimanding Violet before leaving. No matter how much you fuss, you must leave JL Villa before the banquet begins. Was he turning into a robber now? Then, Violet heard Grandma Hamilton call security to throw her out. You can't take this house. Once you marry a chicken, you follow the chicken. Once you marry a dog, you follow the dog. You married into our Hamilton family, so your dowry naturally belongs to the Hamiltons. You can divorce, but you must leave with nothing, Grandma Hamilton said with absolute certainty. Violet gave a cold glance and retorted, then let's see if you have what it takes to make me leave with nothing. Violet walked out. With a single phone call she made, a fleet of Rolls-Royces arrived and stopped before her. 5 minutes later, a man stepped out of one car and approached her respectfully, holding both the jade Buddha she had meticulously selected for Grandma Hamilton half a month ago and a signed contract worth $300 million intended for Toby. She glanced back at the lively JL Villa in the distance, then coldly swept the jade Buddha onto the ground. Command: destroy the contract and immediately sever all cooperation between the MA Group and the Hamilton family. The head of the MA Group, Elvis, responded respectfully. Understood, young mistress. The Hamilton family had no idea that the MA Pharmaceutical Group was merely the tip of the iceberg of the Webster family's wealth in the capital. Pamela's so-called $300 million contract was, from start to finish, nothing more than Violet's support for the Hamilton family. Pamela thought it was her doing, and kept showing off. Let her have her moment of glory then. Soon, it was 9 p.m. The banquet had already begun. Mr. Toby and MS. Pamela are truly a match made in heaven. Not even 30 yet. They're already leading figures in the medical industry. I heard that the international medical giant MA Group specially sought out the Hamiltons for collaboration. The future of Hamilton family's medical technology is limitless. Mr. Toby, let's have a drink. Amidst the flattery from the crowd, Toby kept holding Pamela's hand, their eyes locked in tender affection. Just then, someone suddenly appeared at the entrance, shouting into the hall, Toby, starting today, our MA Group is severing all cooperation with the Hamiltons. A month later, MA Group cordially invites all medical enterprises in City Y to seek new cooperative partners. Who are you? What nonsense are you talking about? Pamela was angrier than anyone. Her reputation was built entirely on that $300 million contract with MA Group. But the person who came to deliver the message left immediately after speaking. Toby also looked grim and immediately called the person in charge of MA Group. After receiving confirmation, Toby was utterly perplexed. The head of MA Group had personally expressed great confidence in the Hamiltons. So why would they suddenly terminate the collaboration? Pamela, though also angered by MA Group's disruption of the banquet, she still comforted him. Toby, tomorrow I'll go to MA myself and renegotiate the partnership. Don't worry. I'm someone who's been nominated for the Nobel Prize in Medicine by M Country. When I go personally, they'll surely change their minds. Toby naturally agreed, but in the end, the banquet concluded on a sour note. Early the next morning, Pamela arrived at the MA Group's branch office building with full confidence, only to unexpectedly run into Violet. Her face immediately darkened. Violet, I didn't realize you had some tricks up your sleeve. You actually knew MA severed ties with the Hamiltons and came here first to beg for cooperation, just to win back Toby. Pamela glanced at Violet's black cheongsam, oozing superiority. You didn't actually think sipping tea with someone would seal the deal, did you? Violet remained composed. Such insight. Is this how you always negotiate partnerships? Pamela was infuriated by the attitude and was about to lose her temper when she saw Elvis step out of the elevator. Quickly switching to a smile, she approached him. Mr. Elvis. Elvis glanced at his young mistress's expression and immediately called security. Who let just anyone in here? Get her out. Hearing this, Pamela smirked triumphantly and shot a challenging look at Violet. The spoiled little miss who only knows how to compete for attention, yet pretends to be important by trying to negotiate a partnership. Do you think MA is someplace you can just waltz into? Serves you right to be thrown out. Before the words had even finished echoing, the security guard stepped in front of her. Please leave. Pamela darkened with rage. Make me leave. Are you talking to me? Without another word, the guard dragged her out and tossed her through Ma's front doors. Pamela made a complete fool of herself and immediately dragged Toby to complain the moment she got home. By the time I arrived, Violet had already finished talking with Mr. Elvis. No matter what I said, Mr. Elvis refused to give us another chance. I saw Violet and Mr. Elvis acting intimately. Maybe the reason MA terminated the collaboration was because Violet whispered in Mr. Elvis's ear. Toby's expression turned extremely grim. The company was his life's work. Violet, how dare she do this? He immediately called Violet, only to find he'd already been blocked. With MA refusing to meet, Toby had to resort to indirect approaches. He learned that Elvis had gone to the City-Y auction and rushed there immediately. He arrived just as the auction ended. Instantly recognizing Elvis's car, the top-tier Hummer was the only one of its kind in the entire city. Toby got out of the car, intending to wait for Elvis to emerge, but when the elevator doors opened, the person who stepped out was none other than Violet. His expression darkened as he took in the sight of Violet, slender and elegant in a blue chipao like a lotus emerging from water. A flicker of admiration flashed in his eyes, only to be quickly overtaken by anger. When did you get involved with Elvis? Violet glanced at him, not wanting to exchange another word. Just as she was about to get in the car, the man grabbed her wrist. Violet. There's no need to date a man 20 years older just to spite me. The Hamilton family was funded by you, but it took me 3 years of hard work to revive it. There's your effort in this too. Surely you don't want the Hamilton family conglomerate to go bankrupt because of your pillow talk. Let's talk this through properly. Don't take things too far. The more she listened, Violet, the more ridiculous it seemed. When they drove her away earlier, why didn't they mention a word about her contributions to the Hamilton family? She raised her hand to cut them off, too tired to explain. Since you already know I'm being unreasonable, why don't you just hurry up and divorce me? Your grandmother wants me to leave with nothing, but I'm not that cruel. Just get out of JL Villa and compensate me with half the shares of the Hamilton family's corporation. Violet. Toby was fuming when the phone rang. The voice on the other end urgent and loud. Violet heard every word clearly. Your sister fainted from a heart attack. Come to the hospital now. Watching the man leave in panic, Violet curled her lips in a cold, mocking smile. Scared? This is just the beginning. Did he think these 3 years of her managing the household for him were easy? The hospital. Toby rushed over upon hearing that Nellie had collapsed from missing her medication, furious. His temples bulged. Why wasn't she given her medicine? Grandma Hamilton, her voice hoarse from crying, continued cursing. This week's supply is gone. It's all that heartless Violet's fault. She left without leaving any medicine behind. Then go buy some myrrh. The steward beside him wiped sweat from his brow and replied softly, this medicine can't be bought. We've asked everywhere. Toby froze. How could it be unavailable? The steward looked troubled. We've already inquired. This medicine is a patented specialty drug under the MA group. Without personal connections, no amount of money can buy it. Human feelings. Toby rubbed his temples. How did Violet manage to buy it? Then he thought of Elvis, and his face instantly darkened with fury. As he was pondering, his secretary hurried over. Bad news, Mr. Toby. The medicinal herb supplier who's been working with the Hamiltons suddenly wants to terminate the partnership. Toby was irritated as he led people into the hallway. You need to ask me about such a trivial matter, just change suppliers. But this medicinal herb supplier is from the capital, their quality is the best, and the lab's planned equipment set was snatched away by someone else. Without the upgraded equipment, the new project can't proceed. Toby snapped impatiently. Then throw more money at it and get it back. The secretary's face turned ashen. The cash flow isn't enough. And the lab expenses are enormous. Previously, Madam had been covering the costs every month. The payment was supposed to be transferred yesterday, but Madam didn't send the money, and her phone is unreachable. Violet had barely left when problems started cropping up everywhere. I heard Madam recently spent 100 million at an auction to buy a ginseng root, so she must have cash flow. Perhaps you could approach her, and the predicament would be quickly resolved. The secretary trailed off. Intimidated by Toby's grim expression, I'll figure out a way to handle the money issue. Toby dismissed his secretary and rubbed his temples, growing increasingly agitated. He had always thought Violet had only injected emergency funds into the Hamilton family 3 years ago, never imagining she'd been covering expenses every single month. Why had she never mentioned this in all these 3 years? Upon learning that the Hamiltons were short of money again, Grandma Hamilton immediately decided to go find Violet. If it weren't for the Hamiltons, Violet, an orphan girl, would have lost that hefty dowry long ago. The Hamiltons gave her 3 years of secure and wealthy married life. Instead of being grateful, she's causing you trouble. We must demand money from Violet. Toby, thinking of Violet's attitude, frowned and stopped her. Grandma, don't mention her again in the future, you silly child. I've heard from Pamela that she's already cheated on you, yet you're still thinking about her. That wasteful woman spends 100 million just to buy some ginseng. Giving her money is pure squandering. It'd be better used as emergency funds for our Hamilton family. Grandma Hamilton was exasperated at such prodigality. All that money. No wonder after Violet left, even her daily bird's nest soup disappeared. Pamela listened to the cash flow crisis at the Hamilton household with a mix of shock and complex emotions. The greatest asset of a medical tech company is its laboratory, yet even its operations were being sustained by Violet. Her eyes flickered slightly as Pamela placed one hand on her stomach and affectionately looped the other through Toby's arm. Don't worry, you focus on the company, I'll figure out the money, she said. Violet's first instinct upon receiving Pamela's invitation was to delete it and block her, but when she went to the cafe the next day, she still ran into Pamela. You saw Toby? Pamela demanded with an accusatory tone. You keep saying you're getting a divorce, yet you shamelessly cling to Toby. Don't you think you're degrading yourself? Violet chuckled lightly. A dual professor in finance and biology, celebrated in M country, yet knowingly becomes the other woman. Who's really degrading here? Pamela, however, felt no shame. In matters of the heart, the one who isn't loved is the third wheel. Toby and I have known and loved each other for 3 years, fighting side by side all the way. A resentful housewife like you, who can't even tell the types of test tubes apart, would never understand. Violet remained expressionless, a faint smile playing at the corners of her lips. Whether I understand officer classifications is irrelevant. All I know is that the Hamilton family conglomerate is about to go bankrupt again. She stood up and slapped $200 bills onto the table. Consider today's coffee my charitable donation to you. Good luck, Mrs. Hamilton. With that, she walked out the door. Just as she reached the steps, Pamela chased after her and grabbed her arm provocatively. You didn't think I came just to say that, did you? Violet was about to raise her hand when she saw Pamela collapse straight downward. My baby, help. With a thud, Pamela immediately began bleeding between her legs. Violet watched expressionlessly. Is this woman so heartless as to use her own flesh and blood to scheme against others? The next moment, Toby rushed over from a distance, grabbed the unconscious Pamela, and glared up at her. Violet, you have a heart of stone. If anything happens to them, mother and child, I won't let you off. Violet watched coldly as the man, eyes red with urgency, carried Pamela and dashed to the car. Then he leisurely took out his phone and dialed. Check if there's any issue with the coffee shop's surveillance, then look into Pamela's pregnancy medical records. She was, after all, a scion of the capital's elite MS. Webster. Pamela's kind of underhanded tactics were something she'd seen dozens if not hundreds of times. Trying to frame her, not a chance. In the afternoon, Violet received a summons from the police. The police informed her that the Hamiltons had filed a report. Upon arriving at the police station, Violet had just stepped out of the car when Grandma Hamilton lunged at her. You damned bitch. My great-grandchild is gone. You knew Pamela was pregnant and still pushed her on purpose. Grandma Hamilton's accusation was something Violet refused to accept. I didn't push Pamela. You didn't push her. She fell by herself. Yeah. Violet's attitude made Grandma Hamilton's face turn crimson with rage. She charged forward with her cane to strike, but the police quickly intervened, escorting Violet inside. Violet entered the house and immediately spotted Toby. The man lowered his head, then raised his eyes when he saw her enter. His eyes were bloodshot. At this moment, the police officer spoke. Ms. Violet, the victim Pamela is willing to sign a letter of understanding for reconciliation. But you must compensate her with 500 million. 500 million. Violet walked over and sat down opposite Toby. It's much less than I expected. Should I add more for you? Otherwise, it won't even begin to cover the hole in the Hamilton family's conglomerate. Toby's face darkened instantly. his chest heaving violently. "Violet, Pamela has already lost her child. Her pain is enough to put you behind bars for life. She was kind enough to let you off, and you're not even grateful." "Then there's nothing more to say, let's proceed directly with legal action." Toby finished speaking and walked away without another word. The mediators exchanged uneasy glances. Violet, you shouldn't have provoked him. We've already visited the scene, the cafe's surveillance was conveniently malfunctioning, and there were no eyewitnesses. The current situation looks very unfavorable for you. Given that the other party is a pregnant woman, your chances of winning the lawsuit aren't high. Violet was actually the calmest one among them. Within half an hour, Elvis arrived with a lawyer in tow. Elvis laid out the collected evidence one by one. "Miss, as you instructed, I investigated Pamela's medical records. She was never pregnant." The lawyer standing nearby handed several documents to the police and added, "This is the blood residue found at the crime scene. After examination, it was confirmed to be prop blood. We also obtained evidence of Pamela bribing doctors to issue abortion certificates." The police officer flipped through the evidence. The lawyer said to Violet, "You can now request the police to arrest Pamela on charges of extortion." Violet's eyes turned cold, her lips curling slightly. "No rush. Let's suppress this matter first. I want to settle a grand total with them." Violet applied to block the news of her acquittal. She also finalized with Elvis that in half a month, the MA Group would hold a bidding conference, officially inviting all medical enterprises in City Y to seek new partners. In half a month, Violet would also be returning to the capital. It was time to settle accounts with the Hamilton family and bring this chapter to a close. The moment MA Group announced their tender meeting, the Hamilton family, their former business partner, faced overt and covert suppression from competitors, leaving Toby overwhelmed with work. The Hamiltons also had no energy to bother Violet. Soon, half a month later, Seaside City's premier hotel, the hotel was resplendent in gold and splendor, where even the lowest tier glass of red wine at the banquet started at 100,000. Attending the event were not only medical entrepreneurs from City Y but also numerous tycoons from capital consortiums. Any one of them could send tremors through the financial world. Toby entered with Pamela. Both awestruck by MA Group's extensive connections, he gazed excitedly at the crowd. Rumors say MA Group's backer is the capital's Webster family, and it seems true. Tonight, the head of the Webster family will make an appearance. Let's meet them and discuss potential collaboration. Even if we can't regain Mars cooperation, just connecting with any big shot in the capital could help the company solve its financial troubles. Pamela chimed in. Then we won't need to keep dealing with Violet anymore. As they were speaking, exclamations of surprise came from the doorway. Both turned to look and froze in shock. There stood Violet, walking towards them in a golden chipau, the peony embroidery on the hem so lifelike it seemed to float off the fabric, making her face appear pitilessly beautiful. Her graceful and well-proportioned figure is a universal favorite across all ages. Pamela, her heart seething with jealousy, deliberately linked arms with Toby and stepped forward, snapping at Violet. "How did you, a murderer, get out of the police station? Was it Elvis who bailed you out? Do you think just because you've climbed into that old man's bed, he can protect you forever?" Pamela was so consumed by envy that she wished she could announce to the whole world how despicable Violet was. "Elvis is just a lackey working for MA. What you don't know is that today, the real investor behind the MA Group has arrived, a prestigious capital tycoon, not someone a murderer like you could ever approach. Be smart and scram now, unless you want to be thrown out like a dog." Violet curled her lips in a cold smirk. "How do you know I'll be thrown out? What? Are you close with the boss behind the MA Group?" "Only," Pamela failed to notice, replying with arrogant pride, "Of course I'm closer than you, if it weren't for you whispering in Elvis's ear to sabotage things. The Hamilton family's corporation wouldn't have had its partnership with MA severed. Just you wait, the Webster family head will hear all about your misdeeds soon enough. Violet, once we settle accounts, you'll be rotting in prison for life." Toby also wore a cold expression, but his gaze toward Violet held an inexplicable struggle. "Evil deeds will bring their own ruin. You do well to watch your step." Violet was amused. "Our accounts are indeed overdue for settling. Those without benevolence or righteousness should indeed watch their step." Perhaps their voices were a bit too loud, drawing quite a few glances their way. Toby and Pamela noticed the renowned coal tycoon Mr. Emmanuel approaching them with an outstretched hand, leaving them no time to continue their dispute with Violet. They hurried over to greet him. Pamela even turned back to throw Violet a smug, challenging glance. So what if the group was short on funds? They were now the rising stars of the industry, riding high on momentum, with plenty of investors eager to back them. Now that the true power holder of MA has arrived, Elvis is nothing. He might even have to turn around and apologize, begging to collaborate with the Hamiltons. Just as this thought crossed his mind, he noticed Mr. Emmanuel actually walking past them, bending slightly at the waist with a beaming smile. Long time no see. President Violet. Toby and Pamela turned around in shock. President Violet. Pamela was astonished. Violet paid no heed to Pamela's thoughts, cheerfully exchanging pleasantries with Mr. Emmanuel. Mr. Emmanuel, has your daughter's condition improved? Mr. Emmanuel grasped Violet's hand with emotion, tears welling in his eyes. Thanks to the medicine you personally prepared, her heart condition hasn't recurred for years. Now she even dares to go mountain climbing. Toby stared at Violet's composure, not without shock. Medicine, heart disease. Violet can prepare medicine. Pamela's jealousy flared more intensely. Violet is just a pampered young lady who only knows how to grow flowers and drink tea. Someone of her status couldn't even reach the threshold of preparing medicine. Mr. Emmanuel, don't be fooled. Mr. Emmanuel recognized Toby but didn't know Pamela, but he'd also heard about recent events at the Hamilton household, his smile fading slightly. Mr. Toby, wasn't it President Violet who prepared your sister's medicine too? You didn't know, you must be joking. Toby still didn't believe it. The special heart medicine for his little sister, he'd shown it to Pamela, and even Pamela couldn't replicate it. How could Violet possibly have made it? Yet he couldn't help staring at Violet, a strong sense of regret welling up in his chest, as if he had picked up fish eyes but discarded the treasure. Violet sneered. Toby, there's plenty you don't know. What do you mean by that? The lights suddenly went out, swallowing up Toby and Pamela's disbelief in the darkness. The next second, a beam of white light fell upon Violet, as Elvis's voice suddenly echoed through the microphone. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend MA Group's bidding conference. Now, let's give a round of applause to welcome the head of the Webster family and the leader of MA Group, Miss Violet Webster, to deliver her speech. Immediately, the lights in the venue flashed back on, illuminating Toby's utterly shocked expression with crystal clarity. Violet. Toby felt as if a dark corner of his heart had been suddenly washed away by a flood, leaving it abruptly illuminated. No wonder she could get Nellie's medicine. No wonder MA abruptly ended their collaboration with the Hamilton family right after the divorce. So she was the CEO behind MA all along. Pamela also widened her eyes in shock. You're actually the person in charge of MA. How is that possible? Aren't you just some rich heiress who inherited money after her parents died? How could you possibly? Mr. Emmanuel heard this and wordlessly moved farther away from Pamela. He was a superstitious man who firmly believed that staying close to fools would make one foolish too. Violet didn't even bother to glance at the two of them. Striding directly onto the stage, she looked at the audience below and spoke with poised elegance. Welcome, everyone. As you all should know, today is MA Group's bidding session to seek new cooperative partners. Toby was stunned. Violet paused, sweeping her gaze across the room before continuing. Our company hereby announces that we will cease all business dealings with the Hamilton family from this moment onward. Furthermore, any company that maintains cooperation with the Hamilton family will no longer appear on Mars' list of potential partners, of course. The specific choice of who to collaborate with remains your freedom and right. I have no authority to interfere. The moment these words were spoken, the entire room erupted in uproar. Wasn't this essentially declaring to all of City Y that anyone who collaborates with the Hamiltons would be opposing MA? And opposing MA would mean opposing money itself, wouldn't it? But it's no big deal. Everyone present knows perfectly well which carries more weight, the MA Group or a minor Hamilton family. What's more, the MA Group has the backing of the capital's Webster family behind it. Only a few families suddenly panicked upon hearing this. Wait, can withdrawing from our current collaboration with the Hamiltons not be counted? Toby and Pamela's expressions visibly darkened in an instant. These families had clung to them relentlessly when they first returned home, but now they're quick to cut ties. Pamela shouted angrily. How dare you, Violet? This is deliberate malicious competition. Upon hearing this, Violet let out a light chuckle. Before she could speak, a big shot from below had already mocked. Competition? There has to be something worth competing for. How can a small-time Hamilton family tech company even compare to MA? Do you really think the whole city doesn't know how you got your start? You actually believe it was your so-called research project? If it weren't for Mars' full funding, who would even know your Hamilton family? You really think you're some kind of treasure? Another chimed in. Exactly. Otherwise, why couldn't you find any partners after MA pulled their funding? One of the big shots who knew about the secret marriage between Toby and Violet laughed and said, Mr. Toby, others might mistake fish eyes for pearls, but you threw away a priceless gem like it was trash. Bet on the wrong horse, didn't you? Toby's face instantly turned extremely grim. This was him cursing himself for mistakenly thinking he had discarded the useless Violet. never realizing that Violet was actually his greatest support. Violet may be wealthy, but Pamela's abilities surpass those of Violet. Pamela has genuinely fought her way up through sheer capability. Even if he had known Violet's identity earlier, he was certain he would have fallen for Pamela. How could he possibly pass off fish eyes as pearls? Hey, what does this mean? Someone asked. You all don't know yet. Back then President Violet secretly married Toby, but on their wedding day the groom went abroad. Now, after 3 years overseas with Mars funding, his return successful, bringing back a little trophy wife. The term little trophy wife was dripping with sarcasm, sounding particularly grating to Pamela's ears. She retorted furiously, I've achieved today's accomplishments through my own step-by-step research. Violet just has the inheritance left by her parents. Without that, what would she be? She's the one who relies on men, a parasitic vine, a pampered little wife, useless. Yet her voice brought no change to the audience's perception. They all began sizing up Pamela, comparing her to the ethereal Violet on stage. A single glance was all it took for them to reach their conclusion. Pamela was utterly defeated. The white dress made her originally not-so-dark complexion appear dull, perhaps to complement her plain attire. She only wore a pair of pearl earrings and had her hair simply tied up, which now looked rather shabby. Pamela looked around at the gazes directed at her, her face turning pale and green, yet she still stubbornly refused to lower her head, unable to bear Pamela's foolishness. Elvis kindly explained, the inheritance is the capital of the Yin family in the capital. MA Group was founded by President Violet when she was 16 years old, without relying on a single penny from her family. You're lying. How could she start a company without family support? Pamela sneered in disbelief, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Elvis looked at her as if she were an idiot. With patent royalties, of course. Where do you think Toby got that flawless cancer-targeting drug project from? It was the result of President Violet and her expert team spending half a year in the lab. All you had to do was follow the project's outlined direction to make it happen. Did you really think you were some kind of prodigy, that you could crack it so easily, and win a Nobel Prize in medicine? Give me a break. Hearing this, Toby froze. The cancer project was actually Violet's work. How could that be? But looking at Pamela's suddenly guilty face, he suddenly hesitated. He looked at Violet and suddenly realized he seemed to know nothing about her. This wife he'd been married to for 3 years, the joy and excitement he felt when marrying her had already faded into obscurity. All he remembered was her stunning, celestial beauty on the day they first met. Later, Pamela appeared in his life, working tirelessly day and night alongside him for the company's growth. Watching Pamela's dedication, Pamela's ambition, and Pamela's uniqueness compared to other women, he suddenly felt that the pampered young lady Violet back home, who only knew how to indulge in luxury, wasn't even worth a single strand of Pamela's hair. Looking back now, had he been wrong all along? How could I? Mockery flooded in like water, and Toby's face darkened. Pamela turned pale as a ghost, clutching Toby's hand. They're lying. That project was the result of my painstaking research. You saw it with your own eyes. I wouldn't lie to you. Her heart was filled with overwhelming dread, but now Violet is the CEO of MA, and Toby. She cautiously studied Toby's expression, until Toby firmly grasped her hand. Pamela felt the weight in her heart instantly lift. She flashed Violet a smug look, her eyes brimming with provocation. Violet watched their tightly clasped hands, an involuntary chill running through her heart. Could they still be thinking she was jealous, that she was deeply in love with Toby? Does it hurt to see them so close? Heh, she clapped her hands. Can't lie. Is that so? The next second, police officers waiting outside rushed in and, under the stunned gazes of Toby and the others, took Pamela into custody. Pamela, you forged pregnancy documents to frame Violet and are suspected of extortion. You're coming with us now. Faking a pregnancy, extortion. Toby blocked the police in front of Pamela, unaware of the sudden pallor on the face behind him. Pamela hid behind Toby's shoulder and shouted to the crowd, I didn't do it, it wasn't me, you've got the wrong person. Only when the police showed the arrest warrant did that tall figure stagger. Mr. Toby, please step aside and don't obstruct official duties. In just an instant, he understood, it was those 500 million. He suddenly looked at Violet. Violet also turned her gaze, looking back. By the way, there's one more thing tonight. You haven't signed the divorce papers yet. I forgot to have the lawyer inform you that your marriage to Pamela in M country is invalid. So, either we part amicably with you getting half of the Hamilton family shares, or I charge you with bigamy and you and Pamela go to prison together. Your choice. Violet's eyes were icy and devoid of warmth. Toby suddenly realized that Violet, with whom he had shared 3 years of marriage, was not just unfamiliar as he had sensed these past days, she was a complete stranger. A sudden chill ran through his entire body, watching Pamela being escorted away by the police. Toby frowned in difficult deliberation. After a long pause, he signed the divorce papers handed to him by Elvis, then followed Pamela and the police. It didn't matter. As long as Pamela was still here, everything could start anew. Violet watched the farce conclude with cold eyes, glanced at the divorce agreement, and then ordered Elvis to collect the debts. She didn't mind at all that her birthday banquet became the talk of the entire city. Why? That was exactly what she wanted, originally. If Toby truly loved Pamela, she would have chosen to let go. If Toby had truly agreed to her condition of splitting half the assets and still married Pamela, she would have thought Toby was a real man. She neither lacked nor wanted that half of the money, but they didn't do that. Even worse, the Hamiltons tried to scheme her Webster family's fortune even in divorce. If she were truly just a destitute young lady with a ruined family, if she were truly just a Violet who, like a longing-for husband stone, could do nothing but crane her neck every day waiting for her husband's return, then perhaps on the day Toby returned to the country, she would have already fallen into eternal damnation. A woman who clings to her deeply beloved husband once she loses his love and affection, not a shred of self remains. Pamela wouldn't even need to scheme. Inside the police station, Pamela held Toby's hand tightly, unwilling to let go. Toby, it wasn't me. I would never do such a thing. Hearing this, Toby's brows furrowed tightly before quickly relaxing again. Pamela would never lie to her. It must have been Violet who did it on purpose. He steadied himself. Violet, how much did she pay you to convict Pamela? What are you saying? The officer slammed the documents onto the desk. What kind of place do you think our police station is? The forged pregnancy certificate fluttered down at Toby's feet during the commotion. He stared intently at the text on it, remaining motionless for a long while. Pamela violently broke free from the two officers flanking her, lunging forward to snatch the evidence and tear it to shreds. It's not true. None of this is true. Pamela shook her head fiercely, but Toby had already read the damning words. Line by line, the evidence spelled out Pamela's crimes in irrefutable detail. Watching the man's expression darken instantly, Pamela's eyes welled with tears as she collapsed to her knees, her voice breaking with desperate sobs. She quickly said, "Toby, I did all this for you, for the company. Without those 500 million, how can we proceed with the next steps? I couldn't bear to see you worried. We've been through thick and thin together for 3 years. You know how I feel about you." Hearing this, Toby's eyes flickered with emotion. Pamela had only resorted to this desperate measure to help him overcome the crisis. His eyes flashed with heartache, but just as he was about to speak, a graceful figure appeared at the door. Violet had changed out of her golden gauze dress and into casual everyday shirt attire. She walked in through the door, looking coldly at the scattered debris on the floor. Pamela, had enough tearing? If not, I've got plenty more here. But as for how many counts of evidence destruction these will amount to, you'll have to ask the police officers. You, Violet, it was clearly you. You killed my child, and now you're framing me. The police officers quickly restrained Pamela, but couldn't block her hoarse, desperate screams. Violet, her eyes filled with mockery and numbness. "Child, have you gotten too deep into your acting role?" Toby said with reluctance. "Once you withdraw your investment, the company will face difficulties. Pamela did it for my sake. Violet, could you let her off this time for my sake? She didn't mean to harm you. For your sake. Just how much weight does your face carry?" Violet scoffed coldly without hesitation, completely disregarding Toby's grim expression, and continued, "You say she didn't mean it. She demanded 500 million outright. If I hadn't come prepared, wouldn't I already be in jail for not paying up? If she had meant it, wouldn't I be facing execution by now, intentional or unintentional? Toby, are you truly foolish or just pretending to be clever? What I uncovered effortlessly has eluded you all this time. Let me enlighten you, whether Pamela acted with intent or not." As she spoke, Violet pointed at Pamela. "You faked a pregnancy to force your way in, making Toby establish a relationship with you in M country and bring you back, pressuring me to divorce. But when you realized I wouldn't comply, even though you claimed to be carrying a child, the Hamilton family unwilling to lose their cash cow, me, to fund their lavish lifestyle due to my Webster family fortune, and with Hamilton Technologies on the brink of a financial crisis, you decided to pin this so-called child on me and extort money, didn't you? Pamela, you really shouldn't have studied biopharmaceuticals. You belong in showbiz, a rising star destined to break records. With the Oscar for Best Actress handed to you as an exception, Violet's sarcastic laughter didn't provoke Toby's anger this time, because with each statement Violet made, another piece of evidence was laid bare before them. Toby slowly, incredulously, turned his gaze toward Pamela. Pamela's eyes now held nothing but panic as she suddenly clutched Toby's hand. Toby, save me. If I go to prison, people will look down on me. I can't have this stain on my record. Toby, I did it all for you. Don't you remember all these years I've stood by you through thick and thin? She just wants revenge on me for taking you away from her. Think about it. How many hardships have we overcome together these 3 years? When the project was leaked, it was me working day and night to catch up and complete the research before everything was exposed. When company employees jumped ship, I was the one who stood by your side through it all, listening Pamela's heart-wrenching words. If she weren't the one who lived through it, Violet might have actually believed her. Her eyes narrowed slightly as she raised an eyebrow, her all-seeing gaze sweeping over Pamela. Violet exuded boundless disdain with effortless composure. Project leak, wasn't it you who sent the documents to so-called experts for advice? After complete exposure, it took you a whole week to fix your mistake. If I hadn't had Elvis seal the information in time and had those experts arrested for leaking secrets, do you think you'd have had any chance to complete the research? What I solved in 1 hour took you a full week to rectify after everything was already exposed. Staff defections, Toby. Don't tell me you're unaware of your little sweetheart's workplace bullying, relying on your shady relationship to harass colleagues. If I hadn't dispatched Ma's expert team there, I'd have feared the Hamiltons would have disbanded on the spot. And then there's Pamela's most impressive road project, such masterful duplicity. The incurable cancer breakthrough was the result of 6 months' hard work by me and the expert team. Yet in the end, the credit report bore only Pamela's name alone. Don't you feel even slightly guilty pocketing that patent bonus? At this point, Pamela had completely run out of excuses. Watching Toby transition from shock to disappointment before closing his eyes in resignation, he handed over all laboratory matters to Pamela. He never imagined Pamela could be such a person. Pamela completely collapsed and was taken by the police into the interrogation room. Violet had come solely to submit new evidence. After speaking, she turned to leave but was stopped by the man. Pamela, could you let her go? Violet turned around and slowly gazed at Toby's face. Etched with disappointment and dejection. He genuinely likes Pamela, doesn't he? After all, she really did it for me. I shouldn't have taken her to meet you in the first place. So eager to get a divorce, Violet looked at him in surprise, wanting to take back what she had just said. He doesn't like anyone, he prefers himself, a selfish and self-centered man. Simply because Pamela was willing to sacrifice herself for him, he was willing to bestow his affection. She suddenly felt absurd on behalf of Pamela in the interrogation room. She still remembered seeing Pamela in news reports before they returned to the country, the nation's preeminent biologist, a leader in the pharmaceutical industry, poised to break through the impenetrable wall of incurable cancer. Now, he's reaping what he sowed. Violet didn't answer, instead countering, if I weren't the young mistress, if I couldn't come up with 500 million, would you let me go? Toby was instantly rendered speechless. After a long silence, he finally asked hoarsely, there's something I've always wanted to ask you. Do you actually like me? Violet wanted to laugh but couldn't muster one. Before the divorce, you gave your body and heart to another woman, and now after the divorce, you come asking your ex-wife if she ever liked you. Have you always been this incapable of recognizing your own place, Toby? I married into the Hamilton family for 3 years, contributing money and effort, being filial to grandma, looking after your sister, secretly funding your career, waiting for your glorious return. I thought I'd done well enough, but what did my devotion earn me? Not a single one of your promises kept. Violet said no more, turning swiftly to leave, eager to distance herself from this den of trouble and its troublemaker. Toby stared blankly at Violet's retreating figure, a wave of regret, too late to act upon, suddenly washed over him. He rarely regretted the decisions he made, yet the only 2 times he did, one was when he regretted marrying Violet so early after confessing his feelings to Pamela in a foreign land. The other time is now. Every time, he's been terribly wrong. So now, shouldn't he stop making the same mistake? He's already missed Violet, so he can't afford to miss Pamela too. Pamela may have done wrong, but ultimately it was for his sake, though terribly mistaken. Pamela was inherently kind-hearted, and her relentless drive to improve herself was precisely what attracted him most. He could forgive all these mistakes. After the Hamilton family reluctantly moved out of JL Villa, nearly another month and a half passed before news of the Hamiltons reached them again. The weather turned cold. Violet looked efficient and spirited in her brown leather jacket. Elvis knocked on the office door with a contract. President Violet, there's a contract to sign. Violet signed it with 2 quick strokes, then glanced at the family photo of her and her parents on the desk. Suddenly, she didn't mind being called President Violet anymore. It almost felt like hearing that title kept her parents close. She was still the carefree little princess in her parents' palms, needing to worry about nothing but being happy. Yet while the former President Violet still called her that, she had already begun standing on her own. Violet sighed inwardly and looked at Elvis. Anything else? Elvis hesitated. The police station said Pamela was released on bail pending trial due to pregnancy. This time I sent people to verify she's genuinely pregnant. Violet's reaction was too indifferent, prompting Elvis to retort, so we're just letting it go like this. Let it go. Bail pending trial doesn't last forever. I'd really like to see if she has what it takes to keep having child after child just to avoid jail time, Violet said. Has the Hamilton family sent over the shares and compensation yet? They did, but the shares from the Hamilton family now aren't even worth as much as any subsidiary under MA. As for the compensation, without Ma's team of experts, I doubt they could even start a company, Elvis said disdainfully. Don't underestimate Toby. MA has been supporting them for 3 years. A starved camel is still bigger than a horse. And don't forget, the Hamilton family in the country is just a branch now. Their headquarters are in M country, Violet said, twirling a pen with a faint smile. Toby's mind is sharp. If he can't break into the pharmaceutical industry, he'll find another way. You guessed right. I heard he's been acquiring land on HY Road recently. The Ford family seems to be locking horns with him over it. Toby hasn't been able to settle the deal yet, and now the land's changed hands. Rumor has it it'll go up for public auction in a few days. HY Road. Wasn't that the exact location she'd been planning to acquire for her biopharmaceutical company? Wait, that can't be right, she exclaimed in surprise. The Ford family. Dylan, yes, he's taken power. Seeing Elvis nod, Violet couldn't help but feel astonished. Toby wanted that land because it was cheap. Being involved in real estate himself, whether he kept it to build and boost the value of his surrounding properties or sold it off later as a package deal, he wouldn't lose out either way. Dylan, why are you getting involved in this mess? As far as she knew, the Ford family didn't own any properties or shops along HY Road. Even further out, they hadn't built any factories either. Surely it couldn't just be for fun. I'll go check out that auction too. Haven't seen Dylan in years. Elvis nodded and immediately went to make arrangements. The Ford family building. Jack plopped down onto the leather sofa and was poked by his phone. As soon as he picked it up, the screen lit up. Looking at the woman draped in golden gauze on the screen, Jack was so startled he nearly jumped up. Dylan, you set this as your screensaver. What's wrong? Not good looking. Dylan walked around from behind his desk and snatched his phone back from his friend's hand. Jack was so shocked his jaw dropped. Bro, she's married. You set another man's wife as your screensaver. So what? She's beautiful. As he spoke, Dylan frowned and added, you refuse to admit you're behind on the news. They're already divorced. Jack felt his worldview had been thoroughly shattered. No wonder you've been relentlessly pressuring the Hamiltons ever since you came back, not even willing to yield an inch of worthless land, so you're venting for your goddess, huh? But this Toby really deserves to be taught a lesson. How dare he not cherish the most renowned socialite in City Y after marrying her? That, whatever his name is. I've seen his photo, he's downright ugly, not even worthy of Violet's little finger. Dylan snorted coldly. She's not worthy, but it's been years since you last saw her. By now, Violet must have long forgotten you. What's the point of standing up for her like this? Jack asked, puzzled. If you say this good buddy of yours likes her, he didn't seize the opportunity when she was single. After getting married, he went abroad in disappointment, and after divorcing, he hurried back in a rush. Cheap flight tickets. Dylan raised his phone. The screen lit up, flashing Violet's face in front of Jack before walking away, leaving behind a trailing remark, because she's pretty. Jack, Violet thought she would next see Toby at the auction, watching him spar with Dylan. Little did she expect Toby to show up the very next day. He knocked on her office door with a frantic look. Can you sell me some of Nellie's medicine? She's passed out. Her life is hanging by a thread. Isn't Pamela out now? Why didn't you have her prepare the medicine for your sister? Toby looked grim. Pamela had tried before, she simply couldn't formulate it. Even if you won't sell it, there's no need to mock. Violet smiled. You only think I'm mocking her because you admit she's inferior to me. A rare genius in the medical field with both virtue and talent, weren't those your words? Now it seems she lacks not only virtue but even the talent was fake. Having said that, she added. Now that's sarcasm. Toby's expression grew even more unpleasant. Violet raised an eyebrow. I could sell it to you. The cost is around $100,000. Considering we were once married, I'll sell you one for $500,000. Violet added. $500,000. Toby exclaimed in shock. MA isn't short of that kind of money. Are you trying to fleece me? Whether they're short or not, I didn't ask you for the drug money from the past 3 years. When you demanded $500 million back then, why didn't you think you were fleecing me? Toby immediately fell silent. Truly, one doesn't know the pain until the knife cuts their own flesh. Violet let out a cold laugh. Buy it or not, it's up to you. I've been feeding Nellie with such precious medicine for 3 years. Even if you switch to ordinary drugs later, as long as she doesn't court death, she won't kick the bucket anytime soon. Fainting every other day, been doing extreme sports again, hasn't she? Judging by Toby's expression, Violet knew her guess was pretty much spot on. In the end, Toby still gritted his teeth and bought a month's supply of medicine. Violet said 500,000 per pill meant exactly 500,000, not a cent less. By the time I got home, Nellie was already awake, with Grandma Hamilton and Pamela keeping her company by the bedside. After taking the medicine, her complexion visibly improved. Before long, Nellie threw off the blankets and got out of bed, startling Grandma Hamilton, who cried out in alarm, slow down, you mustn't get excited, stay calm, oh please, could Violet's medicine ever be wrong? I've been taking it for 3 years, as long as I take it on time, there's never any problem." As she spoke, Nellie shot a glare at Pamela. Unlike someone else's medicine that was guaranteed to work but turned out worse than ordinary hospital drugs, just a few hours in, I passed out mid-skydiving with friends. How utterly humiliating. Shut up, isn't your sister-in-law just worried about you? She's pregnant and still preparing medicine for you, don't you know how to be grateful? Toby snapped angrily. Since when is she my sister-in-law? Your relationship in Country M isn't even recognized. And you're not married here yet. Besides, Violet prepared medicine for me for 3 years, and I never heard you demand gratitude. Why should I be falling over myself with thanks just because it's Pamela now? Nellie pursed her lips and stiffened her neck, staring at the silent Pamela, as if seeing the old Violet all over again. They're all pathetic. Grandma Hamilton glanced at Pamela, displeasure flashing in her eyes, but still spoke up for Pamela's pregnancy. Enough. Pamela is carrying a baby in her belly. As she spoke, she turned to Pamela, her face kind and gentle. Pamela, don't rush into marriage just yet. Toby's career isn't stable right now, and you're still early in your pregnancy. You can wait a little longer. Pamela clenched her fists but said nothing, simply pulling Toby's hand and nodding. That old hag, did she really think she didn't know about her snooping into her hospital records behind her back? Afraid she might pull another fake pregnancy stunt. What does career instability even mean? Isn't it just about watching her belly grow? If we don't get married now, should we wait until after she gives birth and gets sent back to prison? Pamela was full of grievances, but since she now had to rely on Toby, she had no choice but to swallow her pride. Toby, it's all my fault, but the company matters more. I can endure a little hardship. Toby wore a face full of worry. Well aware that this was not the right time to get married, the domestic branch was surrounded by enemies, and crises loomed abroad. Yet, looking at Pamela, who seemed so considerate of him and her slightly showing belly, he turned to his grandmother and declared firmly, "I want to marry Pamela." No. Grandma Hamilton flatly refused. This Pamela had once suggested she could make Violet leave with nothing. But what was the result? Not only did the Hamiltons not get a single penny, they even had to give away a villa. Now she's even faking a pregnancy and being accused of extortion. Who knows what she's plotting against the Hamiltons? In her opinion, even if they must marry, they could wait until after Pamela gives birth and confirms she can hold her great-grandchild before tying the knot. My mind is made up. I'll set the date with Pamela soon, Toby said, then took Pamela by the hand and left, leaving no room for Grandma Hamilton to argue. How could my brother be like this? When Violet was around, the family wasn't like this at all. Now, before she's even officially part of the family, I've lost all standing at home. What will happen if she does marry in? Nellie fumed, tugging at Grandma Hamilton's sleeve. No way, with all her dirty tricks. Who knows if the child she's carrying is even my brother's? Just to worm her way into our Hamilton family. Violet was so much better, at least whenever a luxury brand released new products, she'd have them delivered to me the same day. It's been ages since I've worn anything new, and my friends are all laughing at me. Pamela, who had turned back at the door to fetch something, nearly gritted her teeth to dust upon hearing these words. Toby, who had clearly heard it too, looked utterly grim and was about to storm back in to teach Nellie another lesson, but Pamela stopped him. Watching Pamela shake her head meekly and dejectedly, he couldn't fathom the depth of sorrow in her eyes. Nellie is right. I'm not as capable as Violet. I can't support you in your career or share the burdens at home. Toby, let's part ways. I don't want to hold you back. Moved by her words, Toby embraced Pamela tightly. Don't talk nonsense. I just promised to marry you. Don't worry. I'll treat you well for the rest of our lives. As the words fell, Toby felt a sudden daze. It suddenly occurred to him that 3 years ago, he had said the same thing to Violet. No. Now his love for Pamela came from the depths of his heart. He and Pamela had confirmed their feelings for each other, unlike with Violet. Thinking this way, he handed Pamela a card. Take this card for now. Once the company stabilizes a bit, we'll get married. Pamela nestled in Toby's arms, concealing the calculation in her eyes as she nodded. She placed Toby's hand on her belly, wearing a sweet expression. The baby and I are both waiting for our wedding, these days. Violet has been busy with a new contract at MA. After the birthday banquet, she chose a promising new company. Elvis did advise her to carefully consider the new company, not just because of the initial funding. She knew that Elvis was afraid she'd repeat past mistakes, raising another ungrateful wretch after nurturing the new company to success. However, this time it wasn't Toby, and she was no longer the Violet from 3 years ago, who only knew how to give without reason. The background check came back clean. The boss, Bob, was a medical graduate from the local Ocean University who founded his own pharmaceutical company and persisted for 2 years. Violet reviewed their experiences over the past 2 years. Their direction was correct, their efforts sincere, and most importantly, they had principles. Yet precisely because of these principles, they refused to mix in cheap counterfeit drugs for higher profits, leading to poor earnings. Legitimate pharmaceutical companies, meanwhile, disdained partnerships with small firms, and even when they did cooperate, the prices offered were significantly higher. As a result, the company's sales were dismal, and what Violet valued most was exactly this. Signing contracts with those seasoned veterans who had navigated the business world for decades might guarantee steady profits, but if she could help a principled college graduate just entering society, perhaps she could prevent a rising star from falling, then send the contract to Integrity Pharmaceuticals. After signing the documents, she instructed Elvis to inform Bob from Integrity Pharmaceuticals about Ma's decision to collaborate with them. No sooner had she spoken than the office door swung open, accompanied by a clear, gentle voice calling out, "Violet." Elvis froze in surprise, turning to see none other than President Violet's childhood friend who had just returned from studying abroad. "Nora, didn't you say it would take another month? What a surprise to see you back so suddenly," Violet exclaimed with delight as Elvis hurriedly welcomed the visitor inside. "Ms. Nora." Nora nodded with a mischievous grin. "Well, not entirely, I just missed you too much. So I rushed to finish my graduation project and flew back. You have no idea, if it weren't for that research material you sent me, Lips would have kept me trapped there for 2 more years. So infuriating." Violet gazed at Nora, whose face still retained its babyish roundness, feeling her heart soften after days of being hardened. "Germany's graduation requirements are the toughest. You should be grateful they only extended you for 1 year tilde. If only I'd followed you to Monash University back then, we could have graduated together." "Wait, no, you genius graduated a whole year early. Damn it, I hate geniuses," Nora said irritably, grabbing Violet's bag and pulling her out the door with a look of disdain. "This bag is so last season. Come on, sis is taking you shopping, consider it your divorce gift. That scumbag Toby, I always knew he was no good." As soon as the door opened, they bumped into Elvis carrying a glass of orange juice. Nora downed it in one gulp, still muttering under her breath, "Even your Mr. Elvis here is better than that deadbeat. I've been abroad for so long, and he still remembers I love orange juice. Look at what Toby gave you in 3 years of marriage, nothing but a bellyful of resentment." Elvis listened as Nora dragged Toby's name through the mud with every word, each syllable stomping all over Violet's darkest history. The veins on his forehead throbbed visibly. "With that," Nora waved her hand grandly and declared, "I'll make the decision for your president, Violet. Everyone can leave early today and go out to have fun." Violet helplessly dismissed Elvis, indicating they could proceed as Nora had suggested. Who would have thought that after all these years, the nouveau riche young lady would grow up to become a nouveau riche herself? Hearing this, Nora shot a mock-angry glare at Violet. When she was little, she hated it most when people called her dad a nouveau riche. Later, she started calling him that herself and could no longer bring herself to stop others from doing the same. In the time it took for the two of them to go downstairs and get in the car, news of the sudden paid day off had already spread throughout the entire MA group. Employees flooded social media with posts thanking President Violet for her generosity. President Violet, long live best friends. Dylan showed up right at that moment, inexplicably finding himself shut out. Elvis apologized, saying, "President Violet isn't here, the company is closed today." Jack was the first to react with an glanced at the date, and said in disbelief, "Your company takes Mondays off too." It was a last-minute decision. Jack gave a thumbs up, bold move, then he glanced at Dylan and said, "Why don't you find a fortune teller to divine your fate with her? Forget being together, how is it even this hard for you two to meet, if you can't speak properly? Then shut up." Dylan glared at Jack and was about to leave when a man rushed in through the door, calling out to Elvis, who was just entering the elevator, "Mr. Elvis, I'm Bob. Is it true that President Violet has decided to collaborate with our company? I rushed over as soon as I got the news. Has President Violet really chosen to work with us?" Hearing this, Dylan paused, frowned, and turned to look. A young male college student with delicate features, still carrying a backpack, Ma's new business partner. The Ford family's collaboration proposal. Has the secretary delivered it yet? Violet didn't see it. What was Violet thinking? Jack, acting as a mouthpiece, saw right through Dylan's thoughts and let out a knowing chuckle before deliberately adding, "After all, President Violet is divorced now. Being good-looking in the same industry can sometimes be a form of competition." His gaze then lingered on the faces of Bob and Dylan. To be honest, Bob is quite handsome, a pretty boy type with delicate features. In comparison, Dylan does come off as more rugged, with his domineering attitude and bad temper. Jack poured out everything on his mind, but before he could finish, the stern-faced Yama King gave him a hard kick. "Let's go," gritting his teeth in frustration. With that temper, he still wants to pursue Violet. He couldn't even catch up to him. On the other side, Violet drove Nora to SKP. In recent years, she had rarely gone out shopping, as she was preoccupied with the trivial matters of the Hamilton family, and any spare time was spent in the lab. Even Nellie's jewelry and wardrobe updates were entirely handled by Elvis. Now, it's likely that Elvis, a grown man, knows more about these things than she does. Nora remained the same as before, disliking VIP fashion shows. She walked into the store, picked up a piece of clothing, and held it up to Violet. "I've noticed, Violet, every color looks stunning on you. Just after the Gianni Versace event, let's go take a look." The two went to Versace. The SA had just taken the dress Nora liked into her hands when it was suddenly snatched away. "Sorry Aylin, my customer is in a hurry. This dress is the only one available in the country right now, so let the person who's ready to buy take it first." "Okay." Nora was still looking at clothes and didn't notice what was happening. But Violet turned to see their SA arguing with another SA over the dress they had just looked at. Another sales associate was looking her up and down with utter disdain, his gaze lingering on her out-of-season bag as if certain she couldn't afford anything, his contempt growing even stronger. "Lynn, I'll take this dress," Violet said while glancing back. Lynn's face lit up with joy as she hurriedly replied, "Of course, I'll wrap it up for you right away." Violet calmly followed Nora to look at the bags. Just when she thought the matter had ended there, within 2 minutes, the click of high heels and a haughty voice came from behind. "This dress is what I picked. Are you trying to take it from me?" Violet raised a brow at the familiar voice and turned around with Nora, Nellie, and Pamela. Pamela followed behind Nellie, her face no longer carrying the arrogance of their first meeting, yet her gaze toward Violet was now filled with hatred. "Well, no more provocation, just hatred. Pamela, you're already out on bail thanks to your pregnancy, yet you still dare to wander around," Violet said with a laugh, her words dripping with sarcasm. "Phut." Nora burst out laughing and turned her gaze to Nellie. "Does the Hamilton family still have money for you to splurge? This dress costs $190,000. That's a month's income for your brother's company. Isn't it? You, Violet, how long do you think you'll last without my brother? With your brains, I'll be waiting to see MA go bankrupt. What's it to you if I'm gone? This dress, charge it. I'm taking it." With that, Nellie handed over a black card. The sales associate eagerly rushed to process the payment. Violet narrowed her eyes slightly. If she wasn't mistaken, this was the same card she had originally given to Nellie, demeaning her to her face while still spending her money. Violet smiled and nodded. "Oh, then I'm afraid you won't get to see neither the dress nor Ma's bankruptcy." Nellie changed her expression. "What do you mean?" As soon as the words fell, SA came over with the card. "Miss Lynn, this card can't be used. The funds inside have been frozen. How could it not work? This card is..." Nellie paused mid-sentence, suddenly remembering this was the black card Violet had given her. "Bitch, why did you freeze my card?" "Only a shameless bitch would spend other people's money," Nora snapped with a dark expression, cutting off Nellie mid-sentence. What? Your mother only gave birth but didn't raise you properly. Is that why you've got no morals? Nellie couldn't win the argument against the nouveau riche Nora. Her cheeks flushed red with anger as her chest heaved violently. Pamela quickly interjected, "Since you're already divorced, why be so aggressive? I thought you were more noble than this." "Noble? If you're so noble, why are you climbing into bed as the other woman?" Nora was like a woman possessed, ready to take down one or two without hesitation, completely out of control. The SARS had all gathered around, whispering about Pamela, especially her slightly rounded belly. Violet scoffed coldly. "My money, I'd rather throw it away than spend it on someone with no conscience." Then he turned to Nellie and said, "Don't you love spending your sister-in-law's money the most? Let your Pamela sister-in-law pay for it." Hearing this, Pamela turned pale. Toby had given her that card originally intending for her to buy something for herself, but since staying at the Hamiltons, to maintain good relations, she had no choice but to frequently buy supplements for Grandma Hamilton. Now she had to accompany Nellie out shopping for clothes and jewelry, which had already cost her quite a bit. And then there's Nellie's heart medication. Toby just casually said to leave the MA procurement to her. Where exactly is she supposed to get the money from? Wouldn't it come from this card? Just yesterday, she spent $500,000, now another $190K for a dress. Her heart is bleeding. Back when she was with Toby, she didn't have to worry about anything, not even money. Now, as they're about to get married, she finds herself unable to make ends meet. To make matters worse, she's landed herself in legal trouble, yet she refuses to let herself regret it. Everything is Violet's fault. If she hadn't insisted on Toby marrying her out of obligation, Toby wouldn't have realized his true love was Pamela only after meeting her, unable to divorce. Leading to all these subsequent events, blame Violet. Pamela's hand clutching the card tightened increasingly, suppressing her resentment. Pamela clenched her teeth and handed over the card, forcing a smile. Just charge it to me. Nellie showed no gratitude at all, scoffing. You what? Yours is still my brother's money anyway. Stop pretending it's your own face. Ha 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 ha. Nora laughed loudly and mockingly, while Violet curled her red lips, glancing at Pamela. The emotions in her eyes were unmistakable to anyone. Is this the Hamilton family you've been scheming so hard to marry into? Pamela's expression turned exceptionally grim. By the way, Linda, I don't want this dress anymore, Nellie tutted again. While the SA beside Nellie smugly glanced at Linda, a $190,000 dress, her commission this month was finally guaranteed to top the charts. Violet drew out her words and continued. Besides this dress, 2 of every new season's collection, bags, shoes, clothes in both our sizes. Same old address. As the words fell, Nellie and the SA's expressions froze. All right, I'll personally deliver it to JL Villa for you. Violet took Nora away. Once again relieved that she had cut her losses in time, sales associate Linda excitedly bowed repeatedly as she saw the 2 off. Violet hadn't made this purchase specifically to vent her anger. Not only did it slap SA in the face, but it also made Pamela's $190,000 seem like a trivial expense. Nellie's expression visibly darkened further. Back in the day, she didn't even need to visit boutiques whenever her favorite brands released new collections. Specialists would come to her home and refresh her entire wardrobe. Pamela had only bought her 1 dress, and still acted so begrudgingly. With such a stark comparison, Pamela couldn't even bear to glance at it. I really don't understand what my brother was thinking, choosing you over Violet. Nellie stamped her foot, abandoned the dress, and stormed off. Pamela clenched her fists so tightly her nails nearly broke the skin. She thought to herself, once she married into the Hamilton family, she'd teach them a proper lesson. For now, she endured. She still needed Toby's protection. They're not married yet. If Toby had to choose between her and the Hamiltons, he would never pick her. Can't afford to burn bridges yet. Violet, I won't let you get away with this. Didn't the Hamiltons treat you this way before? After leaving the house, Violet the 2 found a cafe to rest. Nora's smile suddenly froze as she asked. Violet pondered, feeling it was true, yet also not, so she nodded. Then shook her head. Yes, because indeed the Hamiltons relied on her for financial support. No, it's because she was footing the bills. The Hamiltons had been living peacefully. The Hamilton matriarch and Nellie found her tolerable enough. Toby never bothered her before he returned. That's why she had time to immerse herself in the lab, conducting research experiments for Toby. But now that Pamela is about to join the family, their standard of living is dropping instead of rising. It'd be strange if they gave Pamela a warm welcome. Nora looked at Violet with heartache in her eyes, her voice seething with anger. Those ungrateful wolves. Violet comforted her. Didn't you already get divorced? You're acting as angry as if it were your own divorce. Had I known, I wouldn't have advised Dylan. You'd have been better off with him than with Toby. Violet was utterly confused. What does Dylan have to do with this? Nora was immediately speechless. The whole circle knows Dylan likes Violet, yet Violet herself remains oblivious. Nora chuckled dryly. Nothing much. What's for dinner? You have no idea how awful German grass tastes. I'm gonna feast now that I'm back. Violet rubbed her forehead helplessly and teased deliberately. Mars cafeteria is pretty good. Come on, walk me back to the office. Nora pulled a long face. Then I'll eat you bankrupt. Come on, let's go bankrupt SKP first. Night falls. At the Hamiltons, as soon as Toby returned, Pamela informed him that the money in the card had been spent. Actually, Toby had also received the notification, but he thought Pamela was buying research materials, so he didn't ask further. After all, back in Country M, there were times when they'd spend millions on things deemed worthy of research, but upon learning it was for buying Nellie a dress worth $190,000, Toby's expression froze slightly. He said disappointedly, Pamela, Nellie is just a child. How could you indulge her like this? The company is in chaos right now. I couldn't even secure a $300,000 project during today's negotiations. And you two spent 190,000 in one afternoon. Pamela was stunned. She had come to complain and play the victim. But unexpectedly, Toby scolded her without even asking for an explanation. Her face immediately fell. Toby, what do you mean by this? Toby sensed Pamela's anger and, suppressing his irritation, sighed. I'm not blaming you for spending recklessly. I'm saying, you know the company is in trouble right now. When Nellie acts out, you should be the one to advise her. Advise her. I can barely even win her over. How am I supposed to advise her? What position do I have to advise her, right now? I'm just your girlfriend, pregnant with your child but without any real status. You know exactly how your grandmother and sister treat me. Pamela's tone shifted from sharp to soft, expertly manipulating Toby. It's my fault. They do like you, don't overthink it. Toby pulled her into his arms. Nellie is still young and immature. I'll talk to her for you. As for marriage, didn't we agree? Once I secure the HY Road property and the company overcomes this crisis, I'll go discuss it with your parents. Only then did Pamela respond with a soft In the blink of an eye, auction day arrived. Dylan had been shuttling between China and Country M for a week straight, originally planning another business trip until Jack stopped him with a timely phone call. Take me to the auction today. I want to see if there's anything fun to bid on and bring back to cheer up the old man. Dylan remained silent for a long moment. Jack raised his voice twice as loud. Have you forgotten about this? No, Dylan denied, looking at the plane ticket in his hand. He hung up the phone and immediately called his chief secretary. Cancel this ticket. Buy one for the vice president now. He'll handle this collaboration. I have something more important. The chief secretary tried to dissuade him. But you've been following this project for half a month. If we suddenly send the vice president, won't the other side think we're not sincere enough? A $30 billion partnership shouldn't be shaken just because the person negotiating the project changed. If that's the case, we're better off not working with such a company. Do as I say. Yes. The chief secretary took the order and left. Dylan quickly set down his suitcase and drove straight to the auction. Violet thought she had arrived early when she got there, but surprisingly, she didn't see Dylan. By the time half the artifacts had already been auctioned off, and it was nearly time for the land plot to go up, he still hadn't arrived. Toby kept his eyes fixed solely on the land at HY Road. Failing to notice Dylan or anyone from the Ford family, confident of victory, he turned his head only to see Violet. His brow furrowed slightly. Was she also after this plot of land? The land at HY Road, located on the left side of HY Cross Street, was designated by the government for. The auctioneer eloquently introduced the background of the property. Starting bid, $500 million. Toby was the first to raise his paddle, $600 million. Violet knew Toby had recently secured substantial bank financing. Though the exact amount eluded her, judging by his current posture, he seemed determined to win this auction at all costs. She merely wanted an open space to build factories and laboratories. The location mattered little. But seeing Toby so effortlessly ahead, she might as well drive up the price for her own amusement. Why let him have his way so easily? Violet kept incrementally raising the bid, each time just half a step higher, forcing Toby to escalate further. Seeing Toby's brow already furrowed, Violet continued holding up her sign, $1 billion. She had roughly guessed that his available funds were probably only around $1.5 billion. The commercial value of this land wasn't high. Getting $800 million would already be the maximum. $2 billion. Bang. The entire room turned to look at the figure who had made the bid at the entrance. Violet was no exception. She wanted to see who could be so foolish as to spend $2 billion on this piece of land. I just didn't expect to turn around and immediately meet Dylan's gaze. She suddenly remembered what Nora had said not long ago. Had I known, I shouldn't have persuaded Dylan. Even being with him would be better than being with Toby. What do you mean? It's just that Dylan's gaze was truly scorching. It actually made her afraid to linger too long. Dylan watched as Violet calmly withdrew her gaze, as if she didn't know him, and strode forward under everyone's attention to take a seat beside Violet. The $20 billion was almost without suspense. Going to Dylan, the gavel fell. Don't recognize me. Dylan was the first to speak. Violet frowned at him. The Ford family has nothing in HY Road. Why did you spend $2 billion on this piece of land? Wanted to see someone look at me like I'm an idiot again. His tone was teasing, but his expression was serious. Violet found it utterly baffling. Then suddenly, a memory surfaced in her mind, from her childhood when Dylan, as an illegitimate child, had just been brought back to the Ford family, and none of the playmates particularly welcomed him, especially since he was so delicate-looking, like a little doll. The boys who hovered around Violet grew even angrier. Without prior agreement, they all began filling Violet's head with notions that Dylan was a bastard, an idiot, a little beggar, a dirty and smelly child. She truly took it to heart the moment she laid eyes on Dylan. She tried to run away, but with her short arms and legs, she couldn't run fast enough, and so Dylan latched onto her. She could only stare at him as if he were a fool. Later, after spending more time together, she realized Dylan was neither an idiot nor dirty. It seems there was no resistance anymore. Later on, Dylan grew up and went abroad. He didn't even return for her wedding, only sending a large red envelope as a congratulatory gift, which she didn't pay much attention to. Remember now, Dylan pretended to be displeased and said, "It's only been a few years since we parted. How come you act like you don't know me anymore? You weren't this reserved around me before. I'll take you back the same way we came." Violet this time genuinely looked at Dylan as if he were a fool. Spending $2 billion just to buy land, all for her sake, but in an instant, she snapped back to reality and demanded, "You're not trying to pursue me, are you?" Watching Toby approach, Dylan didn't even lift an eyelid, taking a step closer as he chuckled, "Oh dear," caught red-handed. Toby watched the two who were treating him as invisible, clenching his fists. "Violet, if you're trying to provoke me, then you've succeeded." Violet, Dylan. The auction concluded. Violet had initially thought Dylan knew about her recent divorce and was playing along, deliberately making those remarks after spotting Toby's arrival. "Little did I expect that while driving, Dylan knocked on my car window. Give me a ride," Violet instinctively replied. "It's not on the way." Dylan's face instantly fell. "How do you know it's not on the way when you don't even know where I'm going? You don't even know where I'm going. So how do you know it's on my way?" As she spoke, Violet unlocked the car anyway. Violet was driving a low-slung sports car today when Dylan, with his handsome face, slid into the passenger seat. As he fastened his seatbelt, he deliberately leaned closer, and a scent of cedarwood mixed with faint tobacco notes flooded Violet's nostrils. Violet glanced out the window, the corners of her eyes crinkling with amusement. "Can your friend drive two cars at once?" Outside the car window, Jack stood on the curb with two vehicles flanking him, one unmistakably being Dylan's infamous Aston Martin, known to everyone in City Y. Not even blushing while lying through his teeth, she really hit the nail on the head. Violet didn't beat around the bush. "You're not my type." Dylan remained undeterred. "We've never even been together. How do you know I'm not your type?" "Stop joking. We've known each other for years, and besides, I don't like fools who spend $2 billion on worthless land." Violet sighed, her tone turning serious. "I'm not ready to dive into another relationship right now, and I might not be for a long time. So," Dylan also said with a serious expression, "so can I pursue you while I wait for you?" Violet was taken aback and, seeing that she couldn't persuade him, replied, "Suit yourself." Sure, Violet had thought Dylan would back off when faced with difficulties, and the matter would just fade away. To her surprise, the very next day at the company, Elvis came to her in shock with documents for her signature. "These are the land documents for the HY route sent by the Ford family. Once signed, they'll be yours." Violet opened it in disbelief. Was this really for her? She immediately made a phone call. The moment the phone rang, Jack exclaimed, "Holy shit, how did you pull this off? You actually got Violet to call you first. Did you cast a spell on her?" "Sure." Dylan had no time for his nonsense. The second he answered, his demeanor shifted to that of a refined CEO. "Did you receive it? I don't want this land. I'll have someone return it to you. Sending it back to me is useless. The Ford family has neither buildings nor shops in HY Road. If I buy it back to build an amusement park, will you go play there? I bought it for you. If you don't want it, just throw it away. If you're so rich, you might as well give it to me. Sure, marry me. The Ford family will all be yours. We can do the property notarization right now." Nonsense. In the end, Dylan hung up the phone with a laugh. The two reached an agreement. The original route Violet would accept it, considered as a lease, with monthly payments made to Dylan. This way, the two of them could be considered connected. Jack looked exasperated. $2 billion. How about you give it to me instead? Dylan changed his expression. "Get lost. Your family's fortune is many times more than $2 billion. Should I tell your dad you've finally come around and are willing to take over the family business? You can go back right now." "Jack, no wonder Violet's mom didn't let you pursue Violet back then. I bet she saw right through your scheming. You sly fox." Dylan didn't respond. When he confessed his feelings back then, Violet wasn't there. Instead, by some twist of fate, Violet's mom overheard it. She didn't dismiss it as youthful impulsiveness. Instead, she earnestly explained that given his status and current family situation, if Violet chose to be with him, she would undoubtedly be unhappy. Of course, if Violet truly loved him, they as parents wouldn't stand in the way. But love is about giving, about fulfillment, about not wanting the other person to suffer. The choice was left to Dylan, and she decided to act as if she'd never heard these words today. Although Violet's mom didn't object, yet Dylan remained silent. He thought Violet's mom was right, so he began competing for the inheritance rights. Little did he know that while he was striving for their bright future together, The unaware Violet had already married someone else. When he received news abroad about the Webster family's kidnapping and rushed back, he learned that the Hamilton family, who had saved Violet, had already proposed marriage. He left on the day of the wedding, but when he learned she was divorced, the long-extinguished candle in his heart flickered to life once more. Whether the path ahead was Violet truly meant for herself, or as Toby claimed, just to spite him, this time, he wouldn't allow another 3 years to slip between them. Even if there was still a place for Toby in her heart, this time, there would always be a place for him by her side or behind her. He wouldn't let go anymore. By the way, prepare the proposal for the NS project again. I'm heading to MA. Jack wore a completely baffled expression. They've already signed the contract with Integrity Pharmaceuticals. You still haven't given up. No sooner had he finished speaking than he waved his hand helplessly, wearing an I knew it expression. Forget it. If you could let go, you wouldn't have come back. I bet if she weren't already divorced, you'd even convince yourself to be the other woman. That wouldn't happen. Oh, you still have morals like that. I'd advise her to get a divorce first. You're actually quite decent. After Dylan was settled, Violet had Elvis start preparing to build the laboratory. Within 2 days, word spread that Toby had spent over $1 billion to buy a plot of land in the 3rd Ring Road. It was said he planned to build a commercial street. Violet knew he was trying to gamble, unable to target properties around HY Road. The fastest way to recoup funds was to make money by constructing a commercial street. Should we? Elvis didn't finish his sentence, but Violet knew he wanted someone to go and pressure the Hamiltons' business partners. She waved her hand dismissively. The Hamiltons, as long as they don't provoke us first, there's no need for us to get our hands dirty. After Toby 3 years of entanglement, she truly didn't want to waste another moment on anything related to him. Just because she didn't want it didn't mean the fishy smell wouldn't come clinging to her on its own. Meanwhile, at the homecoming banquet for overseas Chinese entrepreneurs returning from Country M, Mr. Toby, you were always hands-on with everything back in Country M, making the Hamiltons' tech reputation resound across America. Who would have thought you had such a capable partner too? Your wife has been thriving here domestically, the Chinese merchant said flatteringly. Toby politely clinked glasses. Mr. Black, you're too kind, it's just small business. The reason for returning home this time is that Pamela wanted to come back to develop her career. Pamela walked over, having heard every word. She straightened her back, her face revealing a long-absent pride. Indeed, this was the real her, a revered research scholar. She slightly raised her wine glass and nodded at Mr. Black. Thank you for your kind words. You're too generous. Ultimately, it's all thanks to Toby's capabilities. I merely assisted, since I'm pregnant. I'll toast you with water instead. Mr. Black nodded approvingly. Your assistant is quite impressive too, still so capable despite the pregnancy. But speaking of returning to the country, us old-timers will have to rely on your wife. If we can collaborate with MA, this trip back won't have been in vain. Haha. Hearing this, Toby and Pamela both stiffened visibly. Pamela froze mid-sip, her face turning ashen like soot from a pot. Toby also realized Mr. Black was unaware of his divorce from Violet, which explained the earlier scene. Mr. Black, you must be confused. I'm Toby's wife. Pamela forced a smile that seemed carved between clenched teeth. Mr. Black clicked his tongue in displeasure. Before he could speak, someone nearby reminded him. You probably don't know yet, Mr. Black, but Mr. Toby hooked up with this woman back in Country M. Now that he's back, the mistress is pregnant and forcing him to divorce President Violet from MA. It's all over city. Why haven't you heard? What nonsense. It wasn't a hookup. We're truly in love. Pamela was furious and tried to rush forward, but Toby held her back. Pamela, stop making a scene. Pamela turned back in disbelief. Someone says you hooked up with me, and you're telling me to stop making a scene. How could Toby not stand up for her back then? Now that he's divorced from Violet, how could they end up like this before even getting married? It's Violet. It must be because of Violet. Last time they met again at the auction, it must be because of Violet that made Toby regret being with her. Let's go home. Toby couldn't stay any longer under all these mocking gazes. Rubbing his throbbing temples, he took Pamela and left. Is it because of Violet? In the car on the way back, Pamela, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly spoke. What? Caught off guard, Toby didn't react at first, then realized what Pamela was referring to. He covered Pamela's hand to comfort her. Don't overthink it, it's just that those people at the banquet aren't ones we can easily offend. We might need to rely on them in the future. Rely on them? How? Didn't you hear? They want you to put in a good word for them in front of Violet. They want to collaborate with MA, Pamela said sarcastically. Violet's words in front of all the business elites in city. Why have you forgotten? The ones collaborating with your Hamilton family are Ma's sworn enemies. Remember, tonight, apart from that clueless Mr. Black, Look around the banquet, who isn't desperately trying to stay away from us? It's all because of Violet." As the words fell, Toby also fell silent, his eyes gradually darkening with anger. Pamela was right, Violet had been too ruthless. They had just gone through a normal divorce, yet she had driven his career into the ground, after a long while. He grasped Pamela's hand and said firmly, "Pamela, let's get married." Pamela held Toby's hand in return and said, "Toby, with your abilities, you've achieved such success in the US, but after giving birth, I still have to serve my sentence. I can't hold you back, don't worry about that. I'll handle it, Pamela. I've sworn to marry you, and tomorrow, I'll go pick up your parents." Hearing this, Pamela nestled in Toby's arms, her eyes gleaming with cunning light. Returning to the Hamilton residence, they recounted the matter to Grandma Hamilton. Grandma Hamilton exclaimed in refusal, "Absolutely not. It's too rushed. What will the other families of City Y think of our Hamiltons, remarrying right after a divorce? And what about when you threw that lavish birthday banquet for me, announcing the child in my womb? Weren't you worried about what others would think then?" Pamela spoke with an unfriendly tone. Toby frowned but had to admit Pamela was right. He immediately made a decision. "Tomorrow, I'll go with Pamela to pick up her parents, and our families will discuss the marriage." Grandma Hamilton grew so anxious that she secretly pulled Toby aside at night and pleaded earnestly, "My boy, though I wasn't satisfied with Violet, now I'm even more dissatisfied with Pamela. Think about it, it was only because she faked her pregnancy that I agreed to kick Violet out. And what happened? She lied to us, ever since she showed up. Our Hamilton family has been struggling more and more. Violet may not have been perfect, but she was filial to me and cared for the family. She managed the Hamilton household meticulously, and even took good care of my health and your sisters. But look at us now after the divorce. I can't even afford Whitebird's Nest anymore, and this Pamela, she just lounges around all day. Forget about her serving me, I bet it won't be long before I have to wait on her." Toby frowned. "Pamela is just less active because she's pregnant. Once she enters this household, she'll surely be more filial to you than Violet was. Didn't you also complain before that Violet was lacking in this and couldn't do that? How can you compare the two?" Grandma Hamilton raised her voice slightly. "Let's not even talk about Violet taking care of her grandmother. Just look at the dowry she brought. Could Pamela ever match that? How much could she possibly contribute to support you?" Hearing this, Toby also spoke more sternly. "Grandma, I had no knowledge about Violet's dowry, and let's never mention it again. But as for Pamela's dowry, that belongs to her alone, no one in the Hamilton family can touch it. I didn't marry her for her dowry. You foolish child. If a wife can't support you, what's the point of marrying her? Pamela doesn't need to support me in any way, and besides, I know her capabilities well. There's no need to persuade me further, this marriage must happen. What's more, my child also needs legitimacy." Outside the house, the grandmother and grandson parted on bad terms, while inside, Pamela curled her lips in smug satisfaction. She really should have recorded it and sent it to Violet to hear. Let her know what it feels like to be loved. A large dowry. What good is a large dowry when you're just a pawn for the Hamiltons to use? Without Toby's love, she's nothing but a joke. Once she marries into the Hamilton family and becomes its mistress, she'll show Violet that she doesn't need money to secure her place as the young madam of the Hamiltons. She's Violet, not like her. The next morning, Toby sent someone to the county, Pamela's hometown. They brought Pamela's parents over. Toby and Pamela went to pick them up at the airport together. Violet never expected to see the two people she least wanted to encounter the moment she stepped off the plane. Pamela spotted Violet first and pressed herself even more intimately against Toby's shoulder, her usual provocation making Violet too weary to even roll her eyes. "Violet." Dylan's striking face stood out in the crowd, and his shout drew the attention of everyone in the airport toward them. Violet flushed crimson, shooting a reproachful glare at Dylan as she walked toward him. Asking in confusion, "What are you doing here? You left the country without even telling me, and now you're questioning why I came to pick you up." Violet sighed helplessly. It was an urgent business trip to discuss a collaboration, just for one day. Toby's gaze involuntarily followed Violet, watching their flirtatious banter before uncomfortably looking away. He turned to see the assistant loading Pamela's parents' luggage into another car. "You must be exhausted from the journey. Uncle and Auntie, Mom, Dad, this is Toby I told you about. Let's go." Pamela's dad responded indifferently. Violet only noticed when walking to the car that Dylan's car and Toby's were parked together. Talk about bad luck running into each other. At the same time, Toby also brought Pamela and her parents over. Their eyes met. Pamela's mom let out a puzzled her, before pointing at Violet and stepping forward. "So it's you wretched girl, who didn't know how to respect elders and care for the young by giving up your seat on the plane." Then Pamela's dad snorted through his nose. "My son-in-law is here. and his from Hamilton Family Tech. You'd better apologize to us old folks if you know what's good for you. Toby furrowed his brows and looked at Pamela. Pamela quickly tugged at her parents, trying to stop them from further embarrassment. Mom, Dad, get in the car first. Pamela's mom continued grumbling as she got into the car. With her tiny frame, what right does she have to take up such a spacious seat? Giving it up for me shouldn't be a big deal. Pamela, you have no idea how vicious she is. She said if the plane crashes after switching seats, you'd have to enshrine her ashes alongside me and your dad. Dylan couldn't help but burst out laughing. Violet, did you eat candy before the flight? Your words are so sweet. Violet curved her lips slightly, not wanting to engage further with them. Dylan, however, wasn't about to let it go. With a charming smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes, he taunted mockingly, Toby, next time you run into your in-laws on a plane, will you also give up your seat out of respect for the elderly? Though today, I'm driving a sports car that only seats two, so I won't be offering it to you. As the two got into the car, Violet's smile lingered while she sighed inwardly about encountering that bizarre pair, Pamela's dad and Pamela's mom, on the plane. Despite not appearing highly educated, Pamela has climbed to where she is now purely through her own efforts. Not long after boarding the plane, she was haughtily asked by Pamela's mom to switch seats, with the reason being their space was too small and demanding Violet to yield her seat out of respect for elders and care for the young. Violet almost laughed in disbelief. No wonder Pamela didn't consider herself the other woman. She and Toby were true love. So naturally she demanded the position be vacated for her. So they really were family after all. Toby's going to have his hands full from now on. Thinking this, Violet said, don't head to the office. Take me to HY Road instead. I want to check on the progress. Dylan glanced at the sky. Maybe tomorrow. It looks really overcast. And they're saying there might be heavy rain and a typhoon today. I'm worried about you. It's fine. I checked the forecast. The typhoon's passing by the neighboring area, not coming here. At most, it'll just be a bit windy. Dylan knew Violet rarely changed her mind once it was made, so he could only nod. After dropping her off, he didn't leave. I'll wait here for you. Violet thought for a moment, then didn't refuse. Then I'll hurry out. The wind howled. The car sped down the road. Inside the cabin, Pamela's mom and Pamela chatted away in dialect, occasionally glancing at Toby. The assistant drove while watching Toby's gradually furrowing brows in the rearview mirror amidst the noise. He couldn't help but sigh at the difference between family backgrounds. Take Miss Violet for example, she only rode in his car once, yet even her simple sitting posture exuded such grace and poise, upright and courteous, clearly a sign of excellent upbringing. This one, the assistant glanced at Pamela's dad removing his shoes, hard to describe. Pamela quickly stopped him, saying, Dad. We're in the car. Pamela's dad had barely restrained himself, but upon arriving at the Hamilton family ancestral home, his true nature resurfaced as he poked and prodded at everything in sight. Nellie mistook him for a newly hired servant who didn't know the rules when she returned, nearly throwing him out. Nellie, these are Pamela's parents. Go fetch Grandma. Nellie shot a glare at Pamela's family and snapped impatiently. Grandma didn't want to see them. She went out to play mahjong to avoid them. Nellie, Toby spoke more sternly. Go bring Grandma back. Nellie pouted and reluctantly brushed past Pamela with deliberate force. Pamela's face also darkened with displeasure. Buying economy class tickets for her parents was bad enough, but now the old lady is deliberately avoiding them. Nellie is making faces and showing obvious displeasure. Normally, treating her this way might be tolerable, but now she's not even holding back in front of her parents. Yet in the end, she still held it in. Before long, Grandma Hamilton was brought back. The moment she stepped through the door, her aristocratic aura made Pamela's dad, Pamela's mom exchange glances. Pamela, your parents know we're here to discuss the marriage between our two children. Though our Toby is marrying for the second time, you're well aware of the Hamilton family's status. If our Toby wanted to marry, families across City Y would be lining up. Your Pamela is fortunate to marry into our family. Grandma Hamilton got straight to the point, while Pamela's dad and mom nodded repeatedly. Yes, our daughter excels in her studies. She was the first from our town to study abroad, the pride of our Borge family. His first marriage was to the daughter of City Y's Webster family, Violet, whose net worth you can look up must be in the tens of billions. She brought it all as dowry without asking for a bride price. Times have changed now, and since Pamela and Toby are in love, we won't compare dowries to the past. But as for the bride price, Grandma Hamilton left her words hanging, waiting for Pamela's dad and mom to follow her lead. Little did they expect Pamela's dad, Pamela's mom to declare decisively, the betrothal gifts must be 3 million. Grandma Hamilton and Nellie were both shocked. How much? Toby also furrowed his brows. $3 million wasn't something he couldn't afford, it's just that he and Pamela had already agreed beforehand the betrothal gifts would wait until after the wedding. Now that the company's commercial street project had started, funds were needed everywhere for initial investments, and the upfront costs were the heaviest. How could he possibly spare an extra $3 million for betrothal gifts? Pamela tugged at Pamela's mom's sleeve. Mom, didn't I tell you? What are you talking about? Getting married while pregnant, $3 million is already asking too little from us. The Hamiltons have such a fortune, are they really unwilling to give you even $3 million? If so, how can he possibly treat you well after marriage, though your parents took the betrothal gifts and won't provide a dowry? Raising you all these years hasn't been easy for them. Shouldn't you see how much the Hamiltons truly care about you and their attitude toward you? Pamela pondered for a moment and suddenly felt her mother made sense, her grip on Pamela's mom gradually loosening. She also wanted to know whether Toby was more determined to marry her and loved her more than he did Violet. $3 million? Are you so desperate you're selling your daughter? Nellie sneered. Hearing this, Pamela's mom was displeased. What, when you get married, you won't ask for a dowry, just let your Hamilton family pay for everything? Of course not. Do you think our Hamilton family is like your Borge family? Nellie changed her expression. Exactly, our daughter can't just marry into your family for free, especially since she's already carrying your Hamilton family's precious grandson. Nellie scoffed. You say it's a grandson, but is it really? Grandma Hamilton also instantly darkened her expression and said, it's not that we in the Hamilton family can't afford this amount, but as you said, no dowry, that's unacceptable, isn't it? Dowry is out of the question. If you think it's unacceptable, I'll just take Pamela to terminate the pregnancy and not marry into your family. But I bet you can't bear to lose the chubby grandson in my daughter's belly. Boom. The flashes of lightning and rolls of thunder were accompanied by the Borge family's unsightly, greedy expressions. Toby suddenly felt a pang of regret, but what's done was done. Pamela and her parents were ultimately not the same. Especially since Pamela was carrying his child in her womb, he pulled Pamela aside. Didn't we agree? The company is tight on funds right now, the dowry amount doesn't matter, but we need to delay it for now. Can you talk to your parents? The first meeting shouldn't turn ugly, as if they're selling their daughter. Pamela's eyes flashed with disappointment, but she still held on to Toby. My parents are just looking out for me after all, it's my first marriage. Just humor them for now and give the dowry, I'll get the money back to you later. I don't even need the dowry, you know I'm not marrying you for that. Toby softened. Alright, $3 million it is. The transfer will be made tomorrow. Toby led Pamela over, and upon hearing this, Grandma Hamilton's eyes nearly popped out of her head. What nonsense has this little vixen been whispering to her grandson again? She agreed just like that. Pamela raised an eyebrow slightly. Boom. Another clap of thunder sounded. On the other side, on HY Road, Violet was startled. The wind grew stronger, and the umbrella could barely withstand the pouring rain. President Violet, the basic framework on the west side was just set up today. Would you like to take a look? Violet pondered. Since she was already here, she might as well take a glance to save herself another trip next time. Just as they were speaking, the manager's phone rang. Right now, okay, got it. After hanging up, the manager scratched his head sheepishly and said, President Violet, a shipment just arrived and is parked at the warehouse. We need to unload it before the rain gets heavier. I have to go take care of it. No problem. Go ahead, I'll be fine on my own. I'll just take a quick look around and then leave. Don't worry about me. Violet waved her hand dismissively. The manager bowed repeatedly. Then I'll head over first, after you're done looking around. Just retrace your steps and go straight to exit. I won't have the front gate locked. Violet said okay and headed west. The wind and rain grew stronger. Violet walked to the west side and looked around, and she actually noticed something wrong. Originally, she had planned to reserve a sunny plot in the northwest corner for growing medicinal herbs, but now it was completely covered in concrete. Violet took out her phone, snapped a photo, and prepared to leave. The wind suddenly grew stronger. A poorly welded small frame leaned against the corner, now teetering precariously, unexpectedly crashing down. Violet looked up as the welding frame shrank rapidly in her pupils, falling straight toward her. Instinctively, she raised her arms to shield her head, but the anticipated pain never came. Instead, a scorching figure shielded her beneath. A muffled groan sounded. Violet looked up in surprise. Dylan, what are you doing here? Violet abruptly stopped mid-sentence as a trail of blood slowly trickled down from Dylan's forehead, dripping onto Violet's face, making her already pale complexion appear even more ghastly. Dylan, she gasped and tried to get up, but was firmly shielded beneath someone's body. Where are you hurt? Can you move? Let's push the shelf aside. I'm fine, just got hit on the back. Don't move, it hurts a bit, Dylan said in a teasing tone, making Violet annoyed. Still acting coy at a time like this. The umbrella was knocked aside, and the rain instantly drenched them both, washing away much of the bloodstains. Then let me blow on it for you. Dylan curled his lips, not entirely out of the question. Violet punched him lightly, still joking at a time like this. As soon as she moved, the person on top visibly paled. Violet immediately panicked. I didn't hit you that hard, but the frame on me is heavy. Dylan's voice grew even deeper. Can I move? Let me see if I can squeeze out, maybe I can prop up the frame or call for help. This isn't sustainable. The workers went to the warehouse, and they'll probably leave once they're done. If we wait for someone to rescue us, our corpses will already be rotting by then. As she spoke, she glanced sideways at the gaps around them, trying to wriggle through. But the two were pressed so close together, almost crushing against each other, the heat of their bodies searing where they touched. Feeling the rising body temperature and something impossible to ignore, Violet could no longer overlook it. How can you still be thinking about nonsense at a time like this? Hearing this, Dylan responded with a hint of grievance in his voice. Violet, with the person I love most beneath me, moving around like this, I'm just a normal man, not some saint. Violet blushed furiously, but as she shifted slightly, she caught sight of an iron rod piercing straight through Dylan's back. Just now, she hadn't seen anything because she was pinned beneath him, but now the entire back of her clothes was soaked through with blood, diluted to a pale pink by the rain. Violet's pupils constricted sharply. Dylan, don't move. Dylan, seeing he'd been discovered, dropped his pretense of ease as his voice grew somber. This won't do. Violet began shouting for help while desperately searching for any gap to squeeze through. Dylan gazed obsessively at the person beneath him, feeling as though the pain in his body had eased considerably. In an instant, even the pouring rain seemed like bright sunshine in Dylan's eyes. Violet frowned at him. Are you okay? Dylan shook his head but remained silent. Violet spotted a gap in the collapsing shelf and slowly wriggled out through Dylan's arm. Just as she crawled free, bang! Dylan collapsed heavily to the ground. The shelf let out a deafening crash. Violet watched helplessly as the iron rod plunged deeper. Help! Help! Violet cried out while trying to lift the shelf, but the shelf remained unmoved. Violet then remembered to call an ambulance, rushing to grab the phone that had been flung far away, only to find its screen dark and unresponsive. Dylan, don't fall asleep. Violet used all her strength to move the shelf just enough to expose half of Dylan's body. I wasn't sleeping. What kind of sane person would sleep in the rain for no reason? Dylan said with forced lightness. Violet listened to his banter, her eyes instantly reddening. Dylan's increasingly pale lips betrayed that the speaker wasn't as fine as he pretended to be. Guilt flashed in her eyes. She should have listened to Dylan and come another day. Mindful of Dylan's wound, she slowly pulled him out of the wreckage. The heavy rain pounded relentlessly, making it hard to keep her eyes open. Yet she could still clearly see the blood draining from Dylan's body. His vitality was fading away bit by bit. Gently brushing aside Dylan's soaked hair, she found a several centimeter-long gash. It didn't look deep, but pale pink blood trickled down his cheek. Violet wasted no more time. She kicked off her high heels, hoisted the person barefoot onto half her body, and began carrying them step by step toward the exit. Dylan, are you asleep? No, Dylan, you're still awake, right? Dylan. Violet's voice trembled, yet she dared not stop her steps. The muddy ground mixed with glass shards pierced the soles of her feet painfully, but she endured in silence as she pressed forward. For the first time, she felt that a stretch of road could be so agonizingly difficult to traverse. It feels endless. The gate is right there in front of me, yet I can never seem to reach it. Dylan, don't fall asleep, okay, don't. Didn't you say you wanted to chase after me? If you promise not to sleep, I'll say yes. Okay, you said it, I said it, Violet, I like you. I've liked you since a long time ago. As soon as the words fell, Violet clearly felt the weight on her body suddenly come crashing down all at once. She froze abruptly, tears rolling down her cheeks in large drops along with the rain. Dylan, is he dead? Was the only person left in this world who treated her unconditionally well. Dead, their bond since childhood. She wasn't some unfeeling, cold-blooded monster after all. She learned from Nora about Dylan's feelings for her, and had personally witnessed all his kindness these past days, gifting land parcels, flowers, meals, projects, even employees, this and that. He gave endlessly. Tell her directly that you want to pursue her. She had gone through a failed marriage and a broken relationship, and had already decided to lock away her heart from love forever. Yet at this moment, her heart wavered. It was being knocked upon by someone named Dylan. If Dylan died, Violet's breath hitched violently. Without another moment's hesitation, she hoisted the man again and rushed toward the door. Fortunately, just as they reached the entrance, Violet spotted the manager's figure. The manager saw them too, braved the heavy rain to run over. and promptly rushed them to the hospital. Dylan was rushed to emergency care. Violet sat motionless on the bench, staring blankly at the dried bloodstains on her hands. It was Dylan who had squeezed them out. The doctors had to exert tremendous effort to pry his hand from hers before sending him into the emergency room. Jack and Nora arrived one after another. "Oh, Violet, your foot," Nora exclaimed. And only then did Violet realize her foot was covered in mud and blood. Nora quickly called a nurse to help clean and bandage it. There were 2 pieces of glass embedded in the sole alone. Jack winced as he watched. "Did you just hand this over to him after carrying all 160 pounds of it?" Nora nudged him. "Who's like you, skinny as a cornstalk, can't even compare to Violet." Jack was left speechless and simply changed the subject. "I knew today was off to a bad start. Insisting on picking you up at the airport during a typhoon, now that's true love." "Yeah, Violet, I think Dylan is great, if he could survive." Nora hadn't finished speaking when Violet abruptly cut her off. "He will survive." Nora froze momentarily before hurriedly agreeing. "I misspoke." Violet had no mood to speak further, her mind flooded with Dylan shielding her beneath him. And those words, "Violet, I like you. I've liked you since a long, long, long time ago." She wasn't completely unaware. There weren't many people who interacted with Dylan. Most either feared his reputation as a smiling executioner or looked down on his illegitimate status. The only ones he really hung out with were Nora, Jack, and their group of 4. Dylan had clearly become much more clingy toward her, yet no one ever brought it up. After marrying Toby, she often found herself reminiscing about the past during idle moments, thinking that even if there had been feelings, it was just the innocent first love of teenagers, something not to be taken seriously or considered real. Can this fondness truly last a very, very long time? Nora brought over a pair of cotton slippers and slipped them onto Violet's bandaged feet. "Dylan has liked you since childhood, we all know, he even confessed to you once, but your mother overheard." Violet was momentarily stunned. How could she not know? Who knows what your mother said to him? But ever since that day Dylan became a completely different person, no longer clingy. "I heard from Jack that during that period he got involved in the family power struggle, competing with his eldest and youngest brothers for inheritance rights. After being outmaneuvered, the old patriarch exiled him to Country M. Then right at that time, when those incidents happened in your family, he was frantic to rush back, only to arrive just in time for your wedding." Violet froze again. He'd already gained control with his business focus in Country M, but the moment he heard about your divorce, he came running back without hesitation. Jack added. As they spoke, the red light in the emergency room dimmed, and the door swung open. The doctor stepped out first, barely having set one foot outside when Violet's mind raced through countless reasons the doctor might give. Her nerves stretched taut, as if a single pull would snap them. "Fortunately, you brought him in time. The patient is out of danger, but the wound is deep and requires proper rest." The doctor's words finally loosened that tightly wound string, and Violet nearly collapsed from relief. As they spoke, Dylan was wheeled out. As the hospital bed passed by Violet, the person on it suddenly opened their eyes as if sensing something, startling the doctors. This shouldn't be happening. The anesthesia shouldn't wear off right after surgery. Could the anesthetic dosage have been insufficient? Watching Dylan struggle to reach out his hand, Violet, with reddened eyes, actively extended her hand towards his. The moment their hands clasped together, the person on the hospital bed fell unconscious once more. Only Violet knew how tightly those hands had held on, as if afraid she might slip away. As the nurse tended to Violet's feet, the bed was wheeled slowly into the ward. Those hands just kept holding on, until Violet's entire arm went numb, until Dylan fully woke up. "I thought I'd wake up to an empty room." Dylan smiled as he met Violet's gaze that had been watching him all along. Violet had a flash of heartache in her eyes, but her lips refused to offer love so easily, holding on so tight. "It's not like I could have left even if I wanted to." Dylan knew she was being insincere. He tried to sit up, but the pain twisted his handsome features into a grimace. Violet immediately panicked. "Don't move around right after waking up, your wound will reopen." "I didn't move, I just wanted to see you worry." Dylan lay back down smoothly, successfully scheming as he grabbed Violet's other hand. Violet looked at his undisguised smugness, both annoyed and helpless. 2 days later, Dylan was already able to move, though getting out of bed was still far from possible. Violet came 3 times a day, shuttling between the company and the hospital. Another week passed. Elvis made a special trip to the hospital to deliver an invitation to Violet. "The Hamilton family sent someone with this. You haven't been to the company these past 2 days. The wedding is tomorrow." Violet was peeling an apple for Dylan when she glanced at it, her heart utterly unmoved. "Toby and Pamela are getting married." Dylan observed Violet's expression and casually asked, "Are you going?" "Why would I go?" Violet responded in surprise. "Attend her ex-husband's wedding." Hearing this, Dylan laughed heartily. "Oh, then we won't go, but when it's our wedding, I'll definitely have someone drag them over to watch us be happy." Violet was stunned and threw the half-peeled apple at him. She wanted to say, "In your dreams," but felt it would be too hurtful. In the end, she opened her mouth but said nothing. Dylan watched her flushed face, his heart itching with desire. "Mr. Elvis, could you step out for a moment? I need to speak with your president." Violet. Elvis was shocked by how quickly their relationship had progressed, but obediently walked out nonetheless. As he turned to close the door, Elvis's eyes suddenly widened. The person on the hospital bed gave a faint smile, casting a warning glance his way before domineeringly pulling their president Violet close and kissing them deeply. So there really was something to say. Guess they thought he was just an unwanted third wheel. Violet, her pupils involuntarily dilated, her face growing increasingly flushed. She wanted to push Dylan away but hesitated due to his wounds, forced to retreat passively, yet the large hand cradling the back of her head forcefully pulled her entire body forward. "Dylan," Violet called out sternly, only to see Dylan's expression change abruptly. "Stop retreating, it hurts." Dylan's cry of pain made Violet halt immediately, even forgetting her anger as she anxiously checked the man's wound. "Where does it hurt?" Dylan blinked his innocent round eyes pitifully. Just like that day over a decade ago when he first met her and tugged at her sleeve from behind, memories flashed by in an instant. Dylan's grievance vanished just as quickly as he slyly leaned in for a kiss. "My lips hurt from your biting." On the eve of Dylan's discharge from the hospital, Violet encountered Toby at the hospital. Rumor had it that Pamela and Nellie had an argument, leading to Pamela being pushed down the stairs and miscarrying, leaving her permanently unable to conceive again. Toby also spotted Violet and Dylan beside her, a perfect match in every way, both talented and attractive, from equally distinguished families. This was how others once described him and Violet. Back then, the two of them had stood just like this, side by side, arms entwined. Toby's eyes were filled with endless regret as he stood frozen, watching Violet approach him. A glimmer of hope slowly rose in his heart. Would she turn back? Did she still like him? Yet Violet didn't even greet him. Simply passing by without a word, without even sparing him a glance, Toby's heart collapsed in an instant. This was the sin he created, the path he chose himself, even on his knees. There was no turning back. Moreover, Violet had no reason to forgive him or keep waiting for him. Dylan narrowed his eyes and glanced back at the dejected Toby, a cold glint flashing in his gaze before he caught up to Violet with a smirk, asking, "Not even going to greet your ex-husband?" Violet listened to the jealousy in his tone and nearly felt like punching Dylan, yet she also knew this was his way of showing insecurity, and couldn't help sighing. Strangers have nothing to say to each other. "I heard Pamela's parents ran off with $3 million in betrothal gifts. Pamela was pushed down the stairs by Nellie during an argument and had a miscarriage. She can never have children now, and Toby's project has also stalled due to lack of funding." Violet's eyes remained calm. Without any sense of schadenfreude, perhaps she had truly let go. In the past, there had been resentment over fruitless efforts and betrayal, but now she saw them as strangers. As for Dylan, that living demon king, he was the one who constantly made her furious. Dylan immediately broke down in defense. "I was just kidding." Time passed in the blink of an eye, and they stepped out of the depths of winter, but this year's first snow fell unusually late, yet perfectly timed. On the day of their wedding, the wedding kept them busy all day long, with all the prominent figures in City Y in attendance, leaving the couple without a moment's rest. Violet caught sight of Toby, but paid no attention. After the wedding, as night fell, the two stood by the window. Dylan held Violet close, nestling affectionately against Violet's neck. "I've finally married you. From the moment I first saw you, I wanted to marry you." Violet looked at him in surprise. "You were just a child back then, 10 years old." Dylan remembers clearly. Violet remembers clearly too. "You were the only one who didn't leave that day," Dylan added jokingly. Violet didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "The night is long. Shall we get down to business?" Dylan tightened his embrace around the beauty in his arms, blushing. The beauty watched as Dylan released her and brought over a box. Inside were various documents and cards. Looking up, she saw Dylan's solemn face. "Today, I give you everything I have, including myself." Violet transitioned from shock to emotion as she watched Dylan place the box in her hands, then slowly lower his head to kiss her. "Violet, in my 13th year of loving you, our first year of mutual love has arrived." Violet quickly shifted from passive to active. "We still have so many years ahead. Are you ready? I love you." The end.